Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Suzette Speaks Show. I'm Suzette Speaks, TV host and attorney, and I want to start by wishing everyone a happy Juneteenth. Yes, it is Juneteenth 2022. Can you imagine? We are celebrating on the US Federal Holiday. It's officially being observed today, June 20th. And for many of us, we had a long list of events we had planned to do. I don't know if you guys got out there and did anything, but here in Miami, we had events scheduled literally from May, end of May, all the way through June. And then a Juneteenth weekend, we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and of course, Sunday, and of course, today. We had lots lined up from drive-in movies and concerts to beach days where we were gathering on what were historically Black beaches. I was supposed to host one. I didn't end up hosting it. My friend girl did actually in my stead. There were poetry readings. There were step shows, huge step shows. Shout out to Uncle Luke. He hosted, or I think it was the city of North Miami, ended up hosting a step show. And prizes worth, what, 5, 3, 1,000, top 3 finishers. And things that I found, unique and interesting about Juneteenth were, some of the roundtable discussions as well. So I don't know if you guys celebrated, but today's conversation is going to be around how and if this holiday has, whether it's a positive impact or a negative impact, it has some kind of impact. But how is this holiday impacting your life? Did you do anything? Did you want to do anything? Do you feel like we should even have a Juneteenth? Was it something that made you jump for joy when it was signed into law last year? This is the second ever Juneteenth, y'all. And where I live, people were setting off fireworks. Come on in, hit the like button as you join. But people were setting off fireworks like July 4th. It was that kind of atmosphere. Now, the question becomes, is this a commercialization of Black history? Is it something that is promoting corporate interests above the actual historical significance of what happened on Juneteenth? Is it something where you feel that it will be a teachable moment, both for you personally or in schools, etc.? Is it something that you are comfortable with, or was there something else you expected from perhaps the current presidential administration to help celebrate or actually create a legal framework so that people of color, specifically Black people, would enjoy freedoms like every other American, every other human being living in our country? So we have a lot to talk about. I have a special guest. Savior Black is in the building. This is a part of my open mic Mondays. I have a few questions besides Juneteenth I want to pose, and I hope you guys are interested and ready. Shout out to everybody watching on Facebook. Hit the like button if you're watching Team Replay. What's up? I'm glad you caught me. Suzette Speaks here. Each and every Monday, I'm going to try to do open mic. We'll see how it goes, and I'm going to put questions out there and ask you, put you on the hot seat, see how you feel about what's going on in and around our world. But tonight, my special guest is Savior Black. He's going to talk about the significance of Juneteenth, and we are going to discuss whether this is something that is a positive or perhaps neutral, maybe. Is it like you woke up every other day and it was Juneteenth and you just kept going? Or maybe it perhaps has some kind of disenfranchising. Let's see. Or distracting might be better. Distraction effect instead of having actual significant change happen. But in the meantime, let me say hello to my people in the chat. Hit the like button as you come in. Hey, RM, how are you? Long time, girl. How you doing, love? Thank you so much for all your help in front of and behind the scenes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hey, Maggie. Maggie, the substitute teacher, says she just passing through. She's probably cooking something really good. Shout out to Rose Real Estate. Good to see you. Rose says, I did not celebrate this year. I celebrated Father's Day. That was the other thing. The coinciding of both Father's Day and Juneteenth was kind of like, well, what you celebrating? Let's go. Wagwan, gracious greatness. Wagwan, that's his big up from UK. It's all right. Hello. I don't mind the greeting. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're watching. I appreciate you being here, and you're always welcome. Freedman's Journal says Juneteenth is the MLK Boulevard of holidays. Now, That might be overly accurate. That's why I really want to. Oh my gosh, not the MLK Boulevard. Y'all say everywhere there's a MLK Boulevard. It didn't actually have an effect. We were supposed to remember the man, and then most of the time, heaven forbid, can I say it out loud? Will you guys be upset? A lot of MLK Boulevards end up being where there's a lot of crime and other things happening. Alrighty. The MLK Boulevard of holidays. Black people love symbolism. That's a deep statement. Freeman's Journal. Ooh, stepped on my toes with that one. I wasn't expecting that, but this is why we need to have the conversation as to how and if even you are celebrating and what Juneteenth means to you. Hit the like button as you come in. Well, without further ado, you've seen him on my platform before. I'm grateful to have him back. He is really a scholar when it comes to, I would call it African American studies. He likes talking about things that impact the Black community on his channel. So I thought he would be the perfect guest. And he said yes to come through and bless us with his knowledge about Juneteenth. So without further ado, please welcome tonight's guest, none other than YouTuber Savior Black. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are we feeling tonight, Miss SuzetteSpeaks?
I feel great. Happy Juneteenth.
Happy Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth.
I'm used to saying it. Funny enough, I grew up in a African American tradition church, and we were celebrating Juneteenth when I was a little girl. So to see all this hype, I'm like, we've been through this, but thank you. How do you feel? How are you, or how is your Juneteenth going? Let me ask you.
It's going good. I'm surprised. I didn't learn about it until I moved to Texas. So that was back in the early '90s when I moved to Texas from California. So in California, didn't know anything about Juneteenth.
Wow.
Here to Texas, I learned about it once I got here, and because ironically in Houston, I said we're right down the road from Galveston, which is where the whole
it happened. Yeah,
that's where it all happened at.
That is a big deal. They've been celebrating from day one. Shout out to all the Texans who knew and had always kept that tradition. And like I said, I grew up with ladies who were educators and had gone to HBCUs. I think one of my favorite ladies from my old church, Miss Johnson, got to be in her 90s. But they were telling us about Juneteenth during Black History Month during Sunday school, which is fantastic. So you got to know about Juneteenth when you moved to Texas. Where is your hometown, or where did you move from?
California.
Cali. Okay, so you said that. I didn't celebrate Juneteenth there, but when you got to almost literally the area where Juneteenth originated, you got a lot more information. So tell us, this year, did you celebrate? Did you do anything?
I didn't do anything significant, if I'm being honest. But for me, I'm a little conflicted on it. Being here at TSU or coming up through a HBCU here, some of the people who actually went about trying to get the holiday implemented were here as well. Ironically, here in Texas, it was a Texas holiday beforehand, and it was conflicting then on the campus. And I understand the significance of it. It's a little conflicting for me because it's I guess let me go backwards to go forward. So for me, I look at it, and I guess I want to say hello to RM as well. But it started off back in 1865, 1900. I'm a century off, but it was 1865 because the Emancipation Proclamation took place was it January 1st of 1863. So that's when.
Let's take it back, because I see my overseas folks are watching. Not going to assume anybody knows this history. Before, I don't mean to cut you off. Before you go deep in, Freeman, what they gonna do? I guess. Thank you. And I saw this with RM saying, I just made a Father's Day tribute video showing MLK at home in lots of unseen pictures. That's actually really beautiful.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful.
Gracious Greatness says, has this Juneteenth of a thing become commercialized, kind of like Halloween? Please don't cancel me. I literally want to learn. No, that's why I'm telling him to slow down, because some of our history we assume everyone knows, but we have Black experiences and non-Black people that watch this show. So I want to make sure this is somewhat educational as well, if you do not know the history of where Juneteenth came from. So we're going to go back to go forth. But before you do, Savior Black, I just wanted to give a shout out to your channel. Tell folks, as RM puts the channel up, what you do on your channel, and then we'll go into some of the history of Juneteenth.
I like to talk about it. Like you summarized it beautifully. As I say, one of the things I really like discussing and one of the things I really like getting into are things that affect us as Black people, as a Black community. And whether you want to call it FBA, the Foundation of Black Americans, or ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, or Indigenous Americans, however you want to phrase it, I'm really interested in things that help to move us as a community, as a people forward, and trying to look at the things that are holding us back, things that are not congruent with us moving forward, and exposing those things and looking at some of the well, I'm just going to phrase it as some of the lies that we've been told, some of the structures, these reinforcing institutions that we have that are keeping us back as a community, that's not allowing us or keeping us in the mentality where we don't want to advance or we think that it's okay on where we're at. So that's what my channel I like
He
to
getting
focus
us woke,
on.
y'all. Bottom line, he getting us.
I
Let's
hate to
just
break
say it.
it, but yeah, okay.
This is a bottom line. Suzette Speaks presents Open Mic Mondays. I'm here with none other than Savior Black. Again, Black consciousness is something that he is really, really passionate about. So I was like, who can I talk to Juneteenth about? Savior Black. And he said, yes. So he's here with me chilling today. Y'all welcome. Suzette Speaks here. Hit the like button as you come in. Talking about Juneteenth and whether you have fully embraced this holiday. And we were just getting into it. Hey, Brown Gal Peace Lounge. Nice to see you. We were just getting into some of the history, and I wanted to slow him down because I know he's super knowledgeable. If you go over to his channel, please go subscribe. Follow him here on YouTube and on Instagram. He is, like I said, he be having charts and numbers, and I'm like, oh, okay, we learning. Professor, okay, we learning. And he also is a professional mediator, which I find very fascinating as well. So just wanted the people to know who you are, not to assume that they've already seen you up here in case we have new viewers and subscribers. So welcome everybody. Suzette Speaks here. Wanted to figure out, how do we feel about Juneteenth? Happy Juneteenth or not? Is this something that has already become commercialized? Ask gracious greatness. Is this something that we want to embrace? Because I think there is so much going on in the world where, people are unfortunately trying to remove African American experiences from American history, which I'm like, it's American history. That's just my take on it.
I agree.
And that's why I was like, well, maybe I need to embrace Juneteenth, because now that it's officially a holiday, folks have to talk about what happened on Juneteenth. And therefore, we do talk about the S word, slavery, and we do talk about, what happened way back in this very tumultuous time in our history, right? Where we as the United States had a division in terms of what would be done with the slavery question. And at the time, this is 1860s, so 150 years or so ago, longer now. President Lincoln at the time had this very difficult, challenging question, because the Union was being forced to decide the economic future of the southern states of the United States. And of course, the southern states were majority, there were slave owners in the North. And we don't hear about those. And we tend to think that everybody in the North was free and happy and go, nope, not the experience. But I love this holiday because it gets to have us talk about the African American experience. But to give you some historical, I'm just trying to set up, because Savior Black be going so deep. I want to just set it up a little bit. So the 1860s, America was founded in 1776. So we had independence from England. The first Africans were brought to our shores here as workers, slaves, unpaid, indentured, with no rights and just no hope. But one thing I did want to highlight, and I've been listening to, that has been how I've celebrated it. I've been listening to a lot of Henry Louis Gates, a lot of programs about early African American life. One thing they pointed out in, I think, a series on PBS is called The African American or African Americans, is that many slaves were skilled. They were shipmen. They knew how to navigate. They knew how to do carpentry. They knew blacksmithing. We don't hear those sides. We think of the slave as kind of this nebulous, and I like to use vocab, y'all. I'm sorry, but it's Open Mic Monday. We're gonna get into it. Like, welcome to the Suzette Speaks show. But what I want to say is that there are just these faceless, drone-ish. Hit the like button. We're doing work tonight. What should I say? Hapless individuals.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely not.
No, that's the portrayal of it. As a matter of fact, I would encourage anybody. There's plantations in Louisiana, and I should put up a list of some of those plantations that you can actually go back and visit to see exactly what it was that the slaves actually did there. That the overseers did just that. They just oversaw. They didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about how to do a lot of the planting, how to move those big, huge oak trees. When you see those beautiful vistas of the plantation with the oak trees that are coming down this road, and they had no idea how to get the taproot and all these other things. But the slaves were the ones who knew how to do all that stuff, and it was the
Exactly.
slaves that passed that knowledge on to them. But they pretend. Again, this is the knowledge that this country was built on the backs of slaves, on the backs,
Mm,
on our backs, on our ancestors' backs, that they had the knowledge, not just the brute force that's what they want us to think about, but we had knowledge, and our contributions to the country, the contributions to this nation, and as just this entire portion here is immense, but we don't get that thought process. We don't get to see that. Only thing that we get pushed on us is what you mentioned, it's just the slavery. And
mm.
so when I look at things like with Juneteenth, like if you don't mind if I go into the history of it.
No, let's go. Let's go, save your blood. That's why you're here.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
So when I look at the history of it, it's one of those things where one of the reasons I'm conflicted is what are we celebrating? And it comes down to initially, like you mentioned, President Lincoln, he had this issue where he had the Civil War was going on, and how does he try to get more people more people to join onto the Union side because they were kind of losing, even kind of getting their behinds kicked. And one of the things he came up with was the Emancipation Proclamation that freed all slaves under an executive order, essentially. So it wasn't law. It's kind of law, but it was an executive order. The proclamation was Executive Order 95 at the time. And so he issued that. That was back in January 1st, 1863. So January 1st of 1863 is when that order was actually, that edict, that Emancipation Proclamation came down. So everyone who heard about it at that time as
Should I read it? I
uh,
gotta Google. Should I Google it?
uh,
Because yeah, if you have never read the Emancipation Proclamation, you should.
yes, has
You
a
should read it. You should read it. Okay. So 1863, we're in the middle of the Civil War, right? The Civil War began in 1861,
and
right? Brother American against American, Northerner against or Union, I should say,
Northern
against
versus Southern, yeah,
Confederacy,
yeah.
right? So the war is in the middle of the war, and then we're talking about it ends in 1865. So the Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln, what did it say in a nutshell? And then 1863 is when it was issued. What did it say?
Hold
What
on,
did it do?
I think I can find it here real
You
fast.
can, because I want to get us in a little bit more context, because we hear these words and we hear Emancipation Proclamation, and we know that word means he set the slaves free. And I smile, and I don't mean to laugh, but I mean it in a more like, but no one knows anymore depth about what the Emancipation Proclamation actually did or said. So
And
I encourage you to read it. I encourage you just to Google and read it as a part of your own historical knowledge of what took place. Again, tonight we're talking about Juneteenth and if we should or how we should be celebrating it. What does it mean to you in this second year of the federal holiday? Where did it come from? And Xavier Black is again a scholar when it comes to history, and specifically history pertaining to African Americans and our experience. So he was just describing when the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln at the time in 1863. This is halfway point about in the Civil War. When it was handed down, what did it do? So tell us a little bit about the Emancipation Proclamation.
so this was the executive order, and I found it. So this is the final, because he has a preliminary and a final. So the final one is, I do order and declare that all persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are and henceforward shall be free. Such condition will be received unto the armed service of the United States, and upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and gracious favor of Almighty God. I apologize for that reading.
No, that's
But
fine. That's fine.
but that is the Emancipation Proclamation. And so you had that so that went through all of the slave states, and they had learned that if you were a slave and you want to be freed as the Union was coming through, that was your freedom as a join the Union as a you
That, and you touch on something so powerful. Not only were you allowed freedom, At that point in the history of the United States of America, black folks could not bear arms. But after the Emancipation Proclamation, it gave us the right to join the Union Army, right? And to possibly take up arms against former so called owners, where that would have been unheard of, unimaginative. Like, you couldn't, to put ourselves back into their historical mindset, it's hard to believe. So, as simple as it seems now, and as presently, logical as it seems now, back then, this was huge, y'all.
Yeah.
There was not even a agreement in terms of the Africans, which I say, intellectual aptitude. Could we learn? Were we human? There was a whole belief, scientific belief, that we were less than, that many practice. Of course, you had those who pushed back, abolitionists. Some even did believe still that Africans were and their descendants were second class, but still should be free. Let's not, paint a rosy picture of everyone who seemed to be on the quote winning side. But it was very interesting to me how, if a black person who was in bond, got the chance after the Emancipation Proclamation to set foot in the North, or have the Union Army come to town and say, here, grab this gun, let's go. Can you imagine the mindset shift?
It's
It
huge.
would blow your mind.
Yeah, one of the things when you were saying that, it brought to mind a individual by the name of Denmark Vesey, who had a slave rebellion during that time frame as well, and that was back in 18. I had to look at it to make sure I had the date, because I know it was the 1800s. It's 1822, and it was in the same month, right? So you had from June 16th through June 18th, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I know it was 1822.
Yeah.
So June 16th to June 18th, say that was the time when he had a slave rebellion. Say at that time in South Carolina, South Carolina. So Denmark Vesey is somebody that you can look at, talking about being able to take up arms against your oppressors, right? The people who are oppressing, who are enslaving you. And this was a monumental shift at this point, where now the government was sanctioning the slaves to take up arms, as opposed to putting down rebellions like the Denmark Vesey rebellion that also happened, like I said, in the 1800s, 1822. And that was one of those things where you have an individual who as he gets a group of people who are being oppressed just like him,
Yes.
to say, we're going to rise up. And that wasn't government sanctioned. This one was actually government sanctioned, where you have in 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation sanctioned that. And it wasn't until 1865, June 19th of 1865, when the Union pulled into Galveston Bay, and they read General Order Number 3, which that was the enforcement of that Emancipation Proclamation, was General Order Number 3, that said, now you got here's the Emancipation Proclamation, which was the Executive Order 95, and we're going to read to you General Order Number 3, which is the enforcement of that Executive Order 95. So you have, it took from.
So we think about, and you're doing a great job explaining it. So Galveston is in Texas, right? And it's probably the southwesternmost southern state at the time. So we have to think about, in the 1860s, how limited. I think Thomas Jefferson started the Night Riders, where newspapers, information started to move a little bit more quickly throughout the United States via people on horseback.
Mm-hmm.
But there was not much, as we know, in the last 100 years, telecommunications. Like, no one picked up the phone. No one knew things were going to happen except by newspaper and when news reached your little town. So from Washington, D.C. in 1863, it took all the way to June 19th, 1865, at the farthest corner at the time of our nation, for enslaved Africans, enslaved Americans, enslaved individuals to be notified and freed, ultimately live up to, for the order that was executive order, as you say, that was put in place by the president, again, President Lincoln, to reach them. So go ahead.
The only reason I say the executive order, and I make that distinction, because also in 1965, so I'm trying to say, because it's December was when it was fully ratified, but that was the 13th Amendment. The first of the Reconstruction amendments was actually ratified in 1965 also, which is why I'm kind of conflicted on the Juneteenth deal. So you have slaves in Texas finding out about the Emancipation Proclamation, which is an executive order in 1865, and also in 1865 you have, I say, the 13th Amendment, which officially, constitutionally, abolished slavery with the exception of criminal being convicted of a crime. So you have two aspects of it, and I'm like, okay, so which one are we? Why are we celebrating the Juneteenth? I kind of get it, but at the
Do
same
you
time,
think we should be celebrating the 13th Amendment?
I don't know. That's why I say I'm kind of conflicted on it.
I love the scholar. Let me think about that.
Yeah, because I had
Fairness,
about it. Yeah.
I have to think about that slave you're black, because even I was watching something earlier today, and shout out to Ernest Claiborne saying the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free any slaves. Okay. It only freed the slaves that were in the states that were actively against the federal government. Those states were not in compliance anyway. Okay. I hear the technical side of what you're saying here. Absolutely. What we're saying as well, and just to go back to what Xavier Black just said about the 13th Amendment, I watched a program earlier today where a lady was talking about possibly, and I don't think we can, I won't say ever, because this Constitution has been ratified and changed over time, but not in recent history. She was saying that the bond, the except for in bond, no person can be held in slavery except for having been convicted of a crime. Her discussion, and I forget, she was a former state rep. I can't remember from what state, but she was talking about a movement. And I'm not, again, she was the first person I heard talk about it in terms of looking at the 13th Amendment exception as to, is slavery really gone in the United States? Is slavery gone? Because there are our brothers and sisters in prison, and I mean people, I mean humanity, 2 million plus in the United States sitting in prison. Many states have programs where they don't get paid and they have to work for companies, private companies, making things, producing things. Is that in fact not still slavery? So it was very interesting, and I don't want to digress too much.
No.
I was thinking about that conversation, and I was like, Lord, but I had not thought about that. And I had to think about that a little bit more deeply.
Well, as a being, so you went through law school, you're an attorney, so you understand that there's a general rule and there's an exception to the rules, kind of like hearsay, right? So you have hearsay, and then you have all the exceptions on when hearsay, right?
It doesn't apply.
So the point I'm making, and the point that she's making, and this one that's been made on as a ad nauseum at this point, is that the exception to the 13th Amendment has just modified or moved the goalposts on what slavery actually is, because it says except as punishment for a person who has been duly convicted of a crime, and then it goes into it. So you've eked out if you're a criminal, you're still eligible for slavery or indentured servitude. Everything else is not, but as a criminal. So now I can't call you. I was getting ready. So
Okay, Xavier Black. Okay,
but I can call you a criminal now, and if I call you a criminal, I can still treat you like they would treat the N-word, right? So so in that sense, or in that, if you're looking at it from that perspective, you just move the bar, and it starts to explain a lot on why it is that while we might make up as Black people 13% to 15% of the population, if you go to the Bureau of Prisons, on the Bureau of Prisons.gov website, and you look at what we make up as far as Black people in the prison system, we make up over 30% of the prison system. So we're overrepresented in the prison system. And for what it is that we're being criminalized for, it's when you really start to look at what's criminalized, and they have their graphs, and they'll show that twice as much as just about any other crime that's convicted is drug-related crimes. So they keep us being criminalized within the system, and they keep us overrepresented within the system. And I think it's just a new form of slavery, or slavery by another name. There's a book that was actually written about that. It's called Slavery by Another Name, and it's a really good read, and it explores that 13th Amendment argument that you're talking about. So when I look at things like we're talking about Juneteenth right now, and we look at the 13th Amendment, which actually frees, which is the actual language for the freedom of slaves in the United States, as opposed to the 13th Amendment, which was, again, it was an executive order. And as was pointed out, he is accurate on that. When you read the language of it, it is specifically for states that were in conflict or against the Union that the slaves were freed.
Yes.
So
So we got some technical scholars. We're going to drop the link if y'all want to come up a little bit. Hey, this might be Simon Hectic. Hi. I think he. Hey, get the likes up, says TT. Welcome. Yes. Hey. Let me see. Oh, to Chef had said, great to see you. I think the point was to quote celebrate when the uninformed were informed they were free. Understood. Hey, Ace Butterfly, I see you. Good to have you. I see you, Ernest. If you want to come up a little bit later or add more to the discussion, I appreciate it. I just dropped the summary of the 13th Amendment. It says the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that, quote, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude,
comma,
comma,
ex-
always whatever comes after the but, whatever comes after the however, whatever comes after the except is the most important part of that sentence.
yeah,
Except as a punishment. So it still leaves this big wide door open for slavery, except
I actually wrote a paper on it. It was
as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So the 13th Amendment can be a whole show in and of itself. But when
correct.
we think about slavery being gone, it's so anyhow we are celebrating in a sense people being informed that it was quote over. But this exception to the 13th Amendment is why back right after the Civil War, we started getting loitering laws
That was
where Black folks
peonage.
just for hanging out
Hmm.
were like just being in a place was criminalized so that this could be applicable. Go ahead, Savior Black.
Yeah, so that was this whole thing. They had a whole set of laws that came up under what they call peonage. So when you look at that 13th Amendment and what you posted there, if you take out was between the between the commas,
Let me put it back.
and that I say so if you take out the between the commas, then that would have eradicated slavery in the United States. But because you left in with the thing that came between the commas, you have carved out an exception for slavery in the United States. And Juneteenth or holidays like Juneteenth, we're celebrating, like you said, the acknowledgement that there was an Emancipation Proclamation, and slaves at the time who were here in Texas specifically now had knowledge that there was an avenue or a way for them to get out of slavery at that time, and that was by joining the Union at the time. And that's why, so where I get conflicted at is that there's other things that are I don't want to say that are more pressing, but other things that are just as pressing as far as that level of knowledge. So we have we're celebrating the level of knowledge of the slaves, like was mentioned before. At that time, gaining that level of knowledge that now you no longer have to be enslaved because of the Executive Order 95, which was read in General Order Number 3 to the slaves there in Galveston at the time, and it spread throughout Texas. And now that they're knowledgeable that that slavery is over for them.
Yep.
So at this point, I think that we need to have that same mindset going forward, specifically with things like the 13th Amendment, where you can look at it and go, okay, now we carved out an exception where slavery is still here and is here up under another name. And it's not for whether it's a felony or not. It says duly convicted of a crime.
Yep.
It's a misdemeanor or felony, which is why peonage laws at the time, when they said it comes up under the banner of slavery, and there's this whole, again, I would encourage you to read Slavery by Another Name. It was an excellent book.
Yeah, we're gonna have 13th Amendment discussion because I can already see when I listened to the argument made earlier today, I was like, woof, 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 woof.
Yeah,
I watched the 13th by Ava
DuVernay.
Ava DuVernay. I want to say both her first name and last name together. Yeah, that also was very eye-opening. On Netflix, you can watch that 13th. Right. So as we get into the Juneteenth discussion, we are welcoming everybody who just joined. Hey, everyone. If you're watching Team Replay, hit the like button. We're just talking about the origins of Juneteenth, wanting to educate, wanting to open our audience up here on the SuzetteSpeaks show, the speakers in the building, to why this even was significant. So Black folks in the historical record, Savior Black, many Black folks have been celebrating Juneteenth. They also, and that was after Reconstruction. What should I say? How can I put this? July 4th at the time was like sacred for white folks only, in a sense. And then when Black folks became free, they started celebrating it. I'm talking about hardcore dress up, tea parties, Sunday's best, events, galas, fireworks. They too also took to that as a I think it was maybe like a kind of like a cultural, like we're here we're here too This is our country too, and that pissed off a lot of people. I read, forget what article I was reading about this, and I thought to myself, wow, we are still conflicted in a way in terms of the love of country, and then all of this historical pain that actually happened on our shores. And I don't think to acknowledge it is to love your country any less. I think it is a part of helping to be, what should I say, truthful. And I think the South African model of truth and reconciliation is very um, helpful. I've studied it. I did a study abroad there, but we've never really had truth and reconciliation in the United States. We've had certain people testify on Congress and on Capitol Hill about reparations recently. We have had, Nicole Hannah Jones, the founder of the 1619 Project, also share her knowledge when it comes to looking at history in the United States through a lens of what happened to Black bodies throughout this economic experience, political experience, political experiment, and therefore who and what we are today as a country. Now, of course, we hear that term critical race theory. It's a law school class, it's a graduate school study. But notwithstanding, what I can appreciate about Juneteenth, Savior Black, is that this allows us a way to open up in schools um, candid, accurate, factual reviews of who we are and where we've been as Americans. You
I,
can't stop it. It's a federal holiday. What are your thoughts on that?
as a where you were going with that was where I wanted to go with this. As a
Mhm.
because when you really look at it, it goes back to that CRT discussion. And if you're having that CRT discussion and the statement that you made,
Critical race theory discussion.
critical
Right? Mhm.
critical discussion, history is just history. It's not really black history. It's not white history. It's history. It's the good. It's the bad. It's the ugly. And what we're doing right now, as they're trying to exclude critical race theory or these discussions, they're trying to exclude history. There's certain facts that we don't like about our history, and we don't want to discuss those facts about our history. So we have a federal holiday, Juneteenth. I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of conflicted on it as I'm stating, but you
Yeah.
think about all the different federal holidays that we do have right now, and with as I say, so you have New Year's is a federal holiday. Let me hold on before yeah, New Year's, MLK Day, Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, I'm sorry, Juneteenth. You have Independence Day, which is 4th of July, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day. So those are your holidays, and you have two of them which are surrounding an individual, which is Washington and MLK, and the rest of them are different events or religious events that you have, such as Christmas or something that was supposedly national significance in Thanksgiving. But these are avenues that we can now start talking about aspects of history, or should be avenues to talk about aspects of history. And when you asked the question initially, or when you started off, you started talking about whether or not this has become too commercialized. And I started asking that about many of our holidays. Are they commercialized? Um, or are they something for us to actually reflect on those days? Or is it just another way for somebody to go, hey, I got something to promote on those days? So, such as 4th of July, we have we're gonna sell flags, we're gonna sell this, we're gonna sell that. Christmas, we're gonna sell everything. Thanksgiving is a prelude to Christmas to sell everything. Like the Black Friday is right after Thanksgiving, so we're gonna sell everything. And so, is it a commercialization, or is it an avenue for us to actually talk about these aspects of our history that need to be talked about? So, you have Juneteenth, and it can lead to that larger discussion, like you talked about the 13th Amendment. What is Juneteenth? Why are we celebrating this? What is the significance of this holiday? Wait, do you mean to tell me there's a whole group of people? Because being a regional, I appreciated it when it was regional. If I'm being honest, when it was something.
When the Texas boys rolled out,
Yeah,
the Cowboys, the original Cowboys.
I say, so for me, I was like, okay, so that's something that says in this area, we know that there is something about our history, Black people's our history here, that is significant. In the fact that here we had everybody else knew about slavery was over, or the Emancipation Proclamation allowed slaves to take up arms against their oppressors, and nope, we didn't know about it till it was over in
Years later.
1965.
Yes,
That's a good
yes.
conversation to have. That's something that we should be talking about. But then the other part of it is, do we want to celebrate that? For me, I'm like, do we want to celebrate the ignorance of it? But
Well, I think
yeah,
even by design, we
yeah.
we got to think about how powerful, what should I say, the establishment was at the time to prevent this quote news from reaching West.
Mhm.
And had people not aware fighting was over, people not aware, all kinds of things. Again, some of it due to just the nature of technology or lack thereof at the time, but some would argue by design. People wanted to keep the status quo, even though the war was won by the Union. Many people to this day call it the War of Northern Aggression. Like there's a whole history there that some are still upset about, and how we celebrate it, how this discussion about Confederate monuments, Confederate generals named on for high schools. There's a whole discourse around this, so it kind of leads into some other things. But what I back to your point about commercialization, now we'll talk about Walmart and Walmart making the Juneteenth ice cream. Did you guys see this? Walmart came out, and thank you guys for supporting the stream. Appreciate it. Um, Walmart came out with a Juneteenth, like, let's have fun and celebrate Juneteenth ice cream. And it was so, I wish I had clipped the picture of the ice cream.
Just really
It
cringe.
was just tacky, bro. And again, what we're talking about, we don't want to happen with something that is really deeply significant as Freedom Day. So, people started signing, petitions and making a lot of noise on social media, and Walmart pulled it. Walmart apparently, allegedly also filed the copyright, the trademark, excuse me, for the word Juneteenth. Can you imagine? And y'all hit the like button as you come in. If Walmart owned the trademark for Juneteenth, that everyone else who ever used the word ever would have to check with Walmart or gain Walmart's permission to use it. And of course, thank God somebody alerted everyone from the trademark office. Of course, it's public after a while because you have to petition for the use and everyone else using it, who's using it, what happened to the use, etc. But not to digress too much. But bottom line is, Walmart wanted to own the word Juneteenth. Where would that leave us? Where would that leave our history? Where would that leave our claim to our legacy? And I say our. Thank you, God, for the African Americans that paved the way for me to be here. It is disgusting in a sense. Very because in America, the first thing we are like, not capitalism. It has brought us this far and has had its benefits, right? Mm-hmm. But unrestrained capitalism or times in where we are looking past the needs and what should I say, protections of people in the name of finding the almighty dollar, it's scary because that was slavery. We can't have serfs like we had in London and where we had in France and where we had in England. We can't have serfs no more. People over here free. How are we going to get people to work for free? Let's go get them from Africa, right? It's like, okay, free quote labor. So then we start to characterize them as ox, as cattle, like the goat. Let's dehumanize them so that we can now sell them. It is a frightening kind of, what should I say, blueprint for what unbridled intentions can look like.
A deeper subject.
I'm trying to find some words. I'm trying to find some words, Savior Black, because
I'm looking at it as I would make the argument that we're pretty much there now. And this We just
Tell
don't.
me how.
Okay, so we're pretty much there now because you have what we call convict leasing, convict labor, right? So
Explain what that is for what people who might not know.
okay, so we as a in our penal system right now, one of the other issues is that fact that we have a privatized penal system, or prisons are becoming privatized, where they are now owned by private corporations, private individuals, and they have a quota for how much or for how much or how little the population for the prison is. So they has a once they get their contract with the state or the federal government, but specifically normally it's the state, they'll have a quota for how much I say with the percentage is going to be 90% full. The state is guaranteeing the prison that will have 90% of it's going to be filled up. So there's a quota that they're going to make sure that they have at least 90% of those beds are going to be occupied. So that now you have it where the state is incentivized in order to convict people to send them to prison. And then once they get to prison, now it's similar to what they had with peonage, but now this is at the federal
Spell
and state level.
peonage so people know how that word is spelled. Peonage.
I
Is it peonage?
give me a
So
second.
people understand because we are using some legal terms. We are both legal minds. First of all, let me just pause and shout out Sun Breeze 322 with 101 on the super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate that support. No comment, just love. My goodness. Thank
That
you very, very much. Sun Breeze represent all the way west side in the building. Thank you for that generosity. Here is supporting as always. Always really, really, really I'm grateful to have you, as a moderator and a general supporter of the channel, Sun Breeze. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Blessings on blessings to you, my darling. Thank you very, very, very much for your generosity. Speechless, but go ahead, sir. Go ahead, as you were saying.
so
Peonage.
yeah, it's going to be spelled Peonage. So
Okay, I
that
had it right. Peonage. So look it up. It's a little, like I said, we're getting a little legally minded, so I don't want to lose people. But we're talking about privatizing prisons. Savior Black is talking about this system that we have in the United States, where a company, remember, companies are in business to make money. Now, instead of the government, it is now being outsourced to companies to run prisons in the United States, right? So the government is not in business of, or we do have several federally run prisons, but a lot of money is being made. I'm talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars by subletting out our prisons to contractors. And contractors are held to a different standard. It's not the government. They have an incentive to keep the prison beds full. So
but
what we do, we lobby. They will lobby, for example, for different laws and such that may guarantee there will be a better outcome for them, which is to have another body laying in that bed because it makes them money. The government is paying them for it. It's sick in a way when you look at it because you don't want, or maybe you do, but I don't want anyone who has an incentive to make money off of a body being in prison, you know, oftentimes lobbying the government for what should be penalized. So are we in a free state? I don't know. Go ahead, Saber
no,
Black.
I was going to say, so in addition to that, so the government also has, when they make the contract, they say, we're going to keep your prisons 90% full. So so the government has an incentive to make sure they have a higher conviction
Oh,
rate.
so the government is obligating itself to say, thank you for doing this. We're gonna make sure you have customers.
Like,
Oh
so
my gosh.
and in addition to that, companies like Walmart or whatnot that might need some labor from prisoners in order to make certain products, they can get those prisoners to work on different things while they're in prison, and it's essentially like slave labor because the 13th Amendment allows for essentially slave labor if you've been convicted of a crime. So it has a so you're even though we no longer call them slaves, we no longer call them that terminology, we're still treating them as such. And that's why for me in my head when I'm looking at them, I would think that you can call it whatever you want to call it. We can call it something different, but we still have a system in place where we can take people and we can make sure that systemically that we can spend almost $40,000 a year per prisoner in order for them to do slave labor. So the company gets approximately 40,000 per head, but has a and I, again, for me, this I think that thought process that we're gonna sublet out at a government level where we have a privatized prison, and we give them 40,000. Why not put that on the front end as opposed to putting it on the
Right.
back end? Now,
So
now
40,000 to prevent someone, address economic needs, address mental health, address educational gaps, address all kinds of stuff before someone makes it to a prison. But instead, our tax dollars are being used to maintain them in the prison once they get there. So there's a whole conversation around, and I want you guys to be aware of it so that you can do some of your own research as well when it comes to privatizations of prisons and what it has meant in terms of the prison industrial complex, meaning it's now a self-feeding like labyrinth. It can't go nowhere now because so many people are eating at the trough. Even when you look at, for example, in Florida, where they put prisons, where people are like economically challenged in rural areas, right? And now that prison becomes the economic driver for that little small town. So everybody works there in terms of whether you're a cook, whether you're a parole officer, whether you're a actual prison guard, whatever it is, whether you clean it. Now they don't want to see the prison go because the prison is paying the entire community as a form of labor. So they're and then now it's like, okay, be tough on crime because we want to fill our prisons. And I'm not saying don't be tough on crime, but I'm just saying be understanding of what are the circumstances that create criminals, so-called criminals, right? So it's very interesting, this kind of like chicken or egg kind of circle that is being produced for profit. So again, there's a lot more to the discussion when it comes to privatization of prisons and what it means for the likelihood that young men of color are going to be sent there. Um, it's very interesting. Savory Black, what would you add? Sunbreeze, again, shouts out to you, Sunbreeze, on the super chat. Today made my day. But tell me what you think about that, Savory Black.
I think that's very poignant to that point that we're driving home, and I kind of want to circle back to the Juneteenth discussion. So
Mm-hmm,
we
mm-hmm.
have this whole situation with Juneteenth at this point, where one of the reasons why like I said, so why I'm conflicted is that I want to be able to talk about Juneteenth as it relates to Black history, but I don't want it to be something that's celebrated. Or I shouldn't say I don't want it to be. I don't think it's something that's celebratory to say the level of ignorance at the time. It's saying, okay, this is something that happened. This is something we're happy that we were able to overcome, and we're getting past this. Not has a I don't want the stigma of it, because I think I compared, and I guess this is an issue that I'm having, is that I'm comparing Juneteenth to the 4th of July, and both of them are supposed to be independence from some form of servitude, whether it's independence from the oppression and tyranny of the monarchy that they have for the 4th of July, or oppression and tyranny of slavery for the slaves coming up under with
The
June.
American government or parts of the government. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have that juxtaposition. One of them is you fought for your freedom, and the other one is we have to wait for somebody to come give us our freedom. And that's where I recognize it is. I just don't like. I don't want. I don't know if that's celebratory. That coming back.
It's interesting. I hear you. I hear you. I never looked at it like that. Very good point. Very good point. One was fought. One seems like a passive more recipient. It was fought for though. It
Yeah.
was fought. I understand what your point is though. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The only like I say, and I'm not like I said, because it always sounds like I'm crapping on it. I'm not trying to crap on it. It's just in our I look at how they always frame things for us as Black people, right? So whether it's FBA, ADOS, Indigenous Black, however you want to frame that, I always look at, for us, a lot of times they'll frame things for us that are passive. We have to wait
Yeah,
for.
from a point of weakness.
Yeah,
Understood.
as
Yeah,
a,
you don't want you're de-emphasizing the strength, the oh my gosh, resilience, the determination, the sacrifice. Oh my gosh, the overcoming and belief that one could be free and didn't deserve to be in servitude and knew that all of this was blasphemous according to the Bible. But yes, okay, we can go back there. But it is diminishing the role of those who fought, those who I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's a de-emphasis, not maybe there's a de-emphasis of those and emphasis of give in. We gave. Same thing like Rosa Parks. Oh, she was a sweet old lady. No, Rosa Parks was a planned a demonstration. She was a
Very much so.
seasoned activist. Don't let her older pictures of her and her pretty braids fool you. She was not a pacifist in a sense.
Well,
But
none of
she
that
was
was
just tired and she didn't get up out of her. That's all I heard growing up. She was so tired. She
but
didn't want to give up her seat. Oh, you didn't want us to know that it was about, the Student Nonviolence Committee, the SNCC, and everybody actually played a role actively. She was selected to go on that bus that day and to make the stand because there had been another young lady who had done that already, who was, but she wasn't the poster child. She was a teenage pregnant person, so they didn't want to use her in front of the American public. But they don't want to give you the backstory. They want to say, "Oh, poor old lady, sweet, beautiful Rosa Parks." I understand what you're saying. They retell it such that it's disempowering. I get it. I get it. So you're saying I don't like that it seems as if the couching or the telling of this part of history is a disempowerment. It's more of a, oh, okay, and they finally got out there and told them they was free. End the story.
I would like Butsy's story told. I would like the Nat Turner stories told. I would
how Nat, all that.
I would like those stories
told. I'm sorry, I get.
I say so when we start
yelling at you every say now.
So when we talk about them, those are the ones I would like to have told or like to have celebrated. But I can also see the benefits or the beauty of having these things celebrated, I say regardless of how that is. So I take the
yeah, you gotta take what you can take out of it. And I think also there has to be a component where you do some, and I think we as a community do some teaching of our own. Don't rely on the schools. Shout out to Better Jen's podcast. You say good conversation as always. Thank you for the fantastic conversation. Y'all, we got some more good conversations coming up this week. We have Ike O coming tomorrow talking about dealing with stress. I tell you, I bring topics here that I'm thinking about, and I've been dealing with some stress lately. So hallelujah. Thank you, Ike. Thursday, I won't be live. I have to moderate a political debate. I'll still drop the link in my community tab in case you want to join me, but it's for South Florida races. So I don't know if you would care, but I'll be emceeing that. And on Saturday, Mandrell comes through with Shoo Shoo. We're going to be talking about recession proofing your life. Again, I know y'all mad and y'all the price has gone up. Things are happening. I'm not sure what the Fed is doing, Janet Yellen. I'm not sure what Jerome Powell and them is doing with monetary policy, but we're being pressed right now, and it's going to keep going, and we're looking at what may happen. So they are going to be a dynamic duo on Saturday at 12 noon. So we have great lineup. Again, Ike O Tuesday. I won't be on Thursday, but Saturday we were back with Mandrell and Shoo Shoo. But Better Gents, thank you for your generosity and for a fantastic interview. Go back. I need to chop that show. I just haven't had a chance yet. Revenge of the Black Nerds. Just kidding. No, The Secret Lives of Black Nerds. There were so many great moments in that show, revealing just the different experiences people had growing up. Better Gents, you know what? I will tell you offline. I realized why I didn't watch no Saturday morning. Did you watch Saturday morning cartoons, Savior Black?
Oh, absolutely.
My mama had me busy on Saturday mornings. When I thought about all the activities I did on Saturdays, I was like, this is why. I never really was home on a Saturday morning. I was at a class. I was at a tutor. I was at a meeting, a Girl Scout troop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, where was I on Saturday mornings? Why did I miss this? But I realized my mom had a full schedule for me. But shout out to those eye-opening, not only revelations about nerds, but experiences, cartoons, things they like, things they don't like, how to pick them up. Let's go. I still ain't got no nerd shirt, chemo. The chemo to my desperate. If you have to buy a shirt that has an anime, which you don't know nothing about it, desperate. Whatever chemo, whatever it takes, bro. I'm gonna give me a shirt.
So your mom didn't give you like till noon on Saturday before she actually sat there and started the slave drive?
I think I was out the house before 9 every Saturday.
Oh my goodness. No.
Yeah, so I missed I was like, am I American? Like, what kind of cultural phenomenon did I miss? But clearly a lot
at Saturday. We had to go start. So
they let you eat the cereal and chill till noon, and then
noon. And at noon, literally every Saturday at noon, we were out in the yard working. So yard
So
work
we was
every
up
Saturday
8
morning
o'clock.
at noon. We were out there mowing the yard, weeding the yard, and everything else. That started at noon. So the cleaning and everything, they allowed us to get up in the morning, get the big bowl of cereal, to watch the cartoons on Saturday, and everything. I say the slave driving did not start until noon on
Oh
Saturday.
no, that's when I was getting home. I was getting home at noon and 1. I'm like, okay, I've had a full day already. Thanks, Mom. But yeah, shout out to Better Jen's podcast. Go check him out. He hangs with the crew. They have great conversations, fun stuff to listen to. Thank you so much again for being my guest. And I know I'm gonna have him back too. So thank you. Paula Tucker says, back to Juneteenth. I've never heard of Juneteenth, really. Now that I have, I also heard that there were those who didn't realize they were free. That, in my opinion, is nothing to celebrate. Okay, heard you. Ernest says indentured servitude was indeed very different from slavery. I've never said it was the same. Of course, okay. So I've used them kind of maybe my bad, a little bit interchangeably. It's not the same thing, or even in the maybe you guys are referring to on the 13th Amendment. No, indentured people came here, had to work for a specific amount of time, and then they were allowed to regain freedom. So they had, what should I say, limitations. They had more rights than people who were enslaved, for sure, in that historical community. But yes, okay, I hope that clarifies that. Thank you. Yes, Ernest on it. An indentured servitude is a person that belonged to his master for a period of 7 years. They were on, but their children were free. Originally, in colonial Virginia, indentured servitude came before slavery. All right, get us right. I love the fact that you guys know a lot more, quite frankly. Yes, I see Ernest adds, you are correct. That's how slavery started in British colonies. It started out with indentured servitude, and then in 1640, morphed into full-blown slavery. I was reading, I think it's called like the Barbados slave codes. They were like a blueprint that most of the Western Hemisphere then used for slavery. It was very interesting. There's so much. Ace Butterfly says, look at the type of crimes they are preoccupied with. These prisons aren't interested in targeting white-collar crimes. They're targeting crimes where Black folks often are committing them. Are the crimes being written for Black people? Yeah, let's go. Go ahead, Sarah.
Can I share something with you? Can I share my screen with you real quick?
Absolutely.
I was looking at something as we were talking. It brought to mind from the Bureau of Prisons, and let me see if I can do a shared screen with you here, because I wanted when she said that it brought up a lot of that we're talking about, as far as, let me see which I want.
Yeah, please hit the like button while he brings up his screen. I want to just welcome everybody. We're having an in-depth conversation about Juneteenth. Whether you feel like it's a win in terms of a holiday, are you celebrating? Did you celebrate? I heard fireworks all through the night from Friday, Saturday. I was like, oh, we doing it like that? Okay, fireworks, that kind of thing. Xavier Black is here. He is also a YouTuber, a mediator, a very passionate person. Let me add his screen to the stream now, but he's very passionate about African-American experiences, studies, history. So he's the perfect person, I think, to help us out on Open Mic Mondays. We're going to ask you guys if you want to come up just shortly, talk about Juneteenth. What do you think is great? What maybe do you disagree with it? And here he is. What does this say, Xavier Black? Tell me what your screen share says.
This is the Bureau of Federal Prisons, or the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So the BOP.gov website, and this is their statistics. And so this is their list of offenses. So based off, and this is from Saturday, 11 June 2022, and this is types of crimes that people are incarcerated for right now for the Bureau of Prisons, or Bureau of Prisons. So 65,701 people that are in prison there right now are for this column E, which is more than twice as much as just about anything else that's here. And when you go down to what E is drug offenses. So 44.9% of everybody that's imprisoned or incarcerated right now in federal prison, it's not state, but in federal prison for the Bureau of Prisons, which has a more than what M is, and M is the next highest one, and that's weapons, explosives, and arson. So more than twice as many people are in prison for drug-related offenses at the federal level than
Mhm.
anything else. So smoking weed or marijuana offenses, those type of things that people are getting incarcerated for, we're incarcerating a large number of people. And this is again when we go to like ethnicity of people that are in, or not, I was trying to go down the race. I apologize.
Yeah.
But going down to when you look at the race of people that are in prison, if Black people only make up 13 to 15% of the population, and we represent over 38% of the inmates that are in prisons right now, and most of those people that are incarcerated because of drug-related offenses. So
Wow.
when you
So
and
set
that
up a whole scheme, because I was reading back, Black women up to the 70s had a higher marriage rate than white women.
correct.
I was reading, like, y'all has got me in this YouTube space so curious about what the heck happened.
But
What the heck
these are
happened? And I
these,
will
these
stand corrected. Let me just say this. TT, you're right. I just Googled it myself. And this is again how information is passed. That 16-year-old Claudette Colvin, who had been the person just like Rosa Parks prior to Rosa Parks, who had taken a stand, sat in the front of the bus, did not get up. She became pregnant later in the summer. I was always taught they didn't push her because she was pregnant.
yeah,
Wrong. I was wrong. She became pregnant later that summer by an older man, it says. So I apologize. My facts from what I was taught.
yeah,
So yeah, this again. These are the versions of facts that we get, and I
correct.
apologize. Thank you, TT, for correcting me. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Zay.
Yeah, and the point I was making is that these are not my numbers. This is coming directly from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, right? So the numbers that I'm showing you when people go like, oh well, where'd you get that from? I got this from a .gov website. This is their numbers. They're the ones who are saying we're in prison. We are incarcerating most people due to drugs and drug related offenses more than any other offense that we have. It's 44% of all offenses are drug related offenses. So when you look at it from that perspective, they've created this system that's reinforcing itself by saying, okay, we're going to bring in all these people. We're going to criminalize marijuana. We're criminalizing all these things that are victimless crimes, so to speak. Where it's like I'm looking, I'm like, okay,
No,
so
we're gonna put the drugs in the neighborhood first.
that's a whole.
Sorry, no facts. No facts. It's different stories, different places.
Oh
What
no,
they did down here in South Florida, I don't know what they did where y'all
no.
live.
I have a stream that I did called "Assault on the Black Community." And I don't want because I don't want to go over that, but because we're talking about Juneteenth, but just
We
looking.
ain't got to talk about Jews. We can talk about this. We brought up the federal business that 13% of the population is making up 40%, 38% of inmates,
Yes,
and mostly
and
on
that's not my number.
drug-related crimes.
It's correct, and that's not my numbers. That's their numbers. So when people go like, "Well, where you get those numbers from?" You can go to the BOP. That's their statistics. I say this is this is their
So I
statistics.
didn't
Their
do
web.
any capital offense in terms of, um, Jesus, I don't want to, because then it sounds like you're splitting hairs on crime. But drugs came into the Black community. Ain't nobody, we didn't have no plane to fly it from Mexico, right? We didn't have no plane to get it through the Bahamas into Miami, Port of Miami, stand up. Like this whole deterioration of the Black family from this end of the 70s, 80s, 90s is because of the infestation, many would argue, of drugs. So if you make a whole bunch of people now who were impoverished, addicted to, or two ways, addicted to, wow, I can now feed my mom who's dependent on me and my peoples, and addicted physically to the actual drug itself, and therefore take fathers out the home through criminalization of drugs for a generation or two. It is just and now the cycle is now in its third or fourth generation. It's really kind of not shocking that people are behind, if you will, than more behind than the mainstream. Let's say, can be argued that it all started, or many can argue that it all started with the so-called drug war.
I would argue that. I say because again, it goes to that they push drugs in the community. My parents grew up in that time frame when that was something that was being pushed, and they could talk I'll probably have a discussion with them at some point because they were in that life at some point. And but it was
A lot of people was addicted to drugs.
Well, it's not just
A
addicted, but
lot of people were addicted.
how they got it into the community. And one of the things
Mm.
that came out of it is right now they have a program called the harm reduction program. And let me see if I can find it, because I don't want to, again, I hate
While you
talking.
do that, and I'm going to let you finish your point. Let me just read some of the comments, because some of the comments are very relevant. Welcome again, Open Mic Mondays, talking about the significance of Juneteenth. Are you celebrating it? Are you happy about it? Is it something that you find joy with? Savior Black is doing work as he always does. He has his own channel, y'all. And if you like the very deep dive dissection into the African American experience, you will love his channel. He's very, very well informed about so many issues, as you can see now with what he's sharing in terms of the Black experience, that you would love his channel. Y'all go check out his channel. But this is Suzette Speaks show right now, Open Mic Mondays, having fun, getting into different aspects of the Black experience in America. And it doesn't, again, I do think it is relevant to Juneteenth, because, again, we have a lot to celebrate. Do we? That's why I say Juneteenth or not in the subject matter. But hit the like button if you're enjoying it. Thank you so much to my generous sponsor of the stream, Sunbreeze. Boy, you hit me with 100 on the super chat. Thank you, Better Gents Podcast as well. I want to get things factual. So, yeah, I want to read a little bit of the chat. Shout out to you guys. I hope to see you tomorrow for Dealing with Stress with Ike O. Hope you will support. And then Saturday with Mandrell and Shushu on Saturday, talking about recession proofing your life. Get the likes up, says Sunbreeze. Thank you so much. Had a great time with Better Gents Podcast. Check him out as well. Thank you so much. Yes, TT says Rosa Parks did what she did because of Emmett Till, not because she was tired at work as a secretary. That's how people try to retell that story. Yeah. It is really, yeah. Ace Butterfly said, yes, I guess in case most Black families, 12 noon slave driving. Yeah, everybody hit the like button when we talk about what we're doing. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't have on a ring, or you mean me? No, I just have on fake. This is a cosmetic jewelry, y'all. Don't even get excited.
They married you.
Thank you, cuz, for hooking me up. I told you I got a lot of different good jewelry over the last weekend or two. So yeah, nope. Just cosmetic, guys. Don't get excited. Bingo, drug offenses, says Ace. Visit Savior Black's channel. Why don't y'all hit the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed? We're talking about Juneteenth. Are we really celebrating something significant here? Why or why not? Are you considering it the new Independence Day for Black folks, just like a July 4th? Are you kind of tepid on it? Did you do anything? Did you celebrate? I'm about to drop the link. And I want you guys to come up and kind of tell me your thoughts. And in the meantime, go over to Savior Black's channel, hit the like button and subscribe. Yes, Ace Butterfly says, I bet if you look at drugs, the drugs are likely low-grade drugs. That is the drugs that Black people usually use or sell. Hey, y'all, Miss Creative, good. Peace be unto you. I'll tell you, Breakdown the Black since the 1960s is multifaceted. Yes, I'm talking about one facet. Yes, I agree with you, Ace. It's not just drugs. Fine. Yes, 100%. Let me see. I'm really happy that you're discussing the 13th Amendment, how slavery has been transferred to the prison system. It seems like the celebration of Juneteenth will evolve and will continue to celebrate. Yeah, I think it's just so new. We haven't even really dug deep into how we want to do this, right? We're just still new at it. I seen you get fun celebrating. It's supposed to be like, I've seen a lot of Black joy. We want to be just joyful because and exist in joy. We deserve joy. So I've seen that as a theme down here in South Florida. Snuggle says, yes, happy Father's Day and Pride Month also. Yes. Men, this is true. Men that serve. Who just told me a good story about this? Men that served in Vietnam. I think one of my peoples at the gym was telling me about his granddaddy was selling stuff during, like, he was just telling me how hustling was in his blood and how his grandfather, I was like, I thought was selling drugs, but he was like, no, it wasn't drugs. He was just selling any regular household item that folks over there who were serving could not get. He would get it shipped and start selling it to not only soldiers, but to the local folks from Vietnam. It was very interesting, his story. Yes. Hey, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. What are we talking about tonight? Well, welcome. We're talking about Juneteenth. How are we celebrating it? Do we really want to embrace it? Have you already embraced it? Savior Black is my guest. Open Mic Mondays. I actually have one more question I want to ask some of y'all as well. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the support so far in the stream. Y'all blessing me. Thank you very, very much to all my speakers and those who are riding with me from this long time journey. Appreciate you. Yes, people have been celebrating this holiday. It was officially now made a federal holiday by President Biden last year. Second year officially is now. Absolutely, Doug says I learned about Juneteenth back in 1999. Yes, you know about the fake bling bling. What's up? Yeah, thank you. It has a little touch. It gives you a little class, but it ain't real. So hey, I rock my little. I like cosmetic jewelry. So please don't hate, don't hate, don't hate. Not the bling bling, the big. They mad. So everybody, let me get back on course. So we're
No
talking
worries, no worries.
Juneteenth. We're talking about African American history in general. Yes, we're talking about the significance of this holiday and how let's give thumbs up. Thank you, Ace. How we are either benefiting or not,
Yeah.
how we should or not embrace it. What are some of the aspects that are good about this? What are some of the challenges with this? How don't be mad at the Snuggles. I know you're trying to be nasty, but I do go to the gym. Praise God. Don't get blocked. Don't get blocked, Snuggles. Yes. Ernest says back to our regular scheduled program. Snuggles rude. I agree with Savior Black. This is a strange national holiday. Yeah, it is definitely giving me more food for thought. Some of the things you're raising, Savior Black. Yes, hit the like button. It's free to do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Subscribe. It's free. It's free. Please hit the like button as you come in. So, Savior Black, you still want to use your shared screen at this time?
Actually, yeah, I was going to point out one thing when it comes to when it came to drugs, but as a
Oh yes, please do. Please do.
I'll share my screen here real fast if you don't mind. There's a program that just completed here, and this is for fiscal year 2022. It's called the Harm Reduction Program Grant. Now, this is money that the government is giving out, and when we talk about drugs and drug related offenses, so we just established a moment ago that from the Bureau of Prisons, looking at their website, that they imprison over 40 or 44% of everybody that's in prison there is in prison because of drugs. And so one of the things that they're doing now, they have this harm reduction program. And with this harm reduction program, this is a program that's going about this year, and it's a targeted program that the government has that's going out, and they're giving out to 25 recipients. So they're going to award 25 recipients, and these recipients can either be governments. So you can have a state government, there are tribal governments, and there are nonprofit organizations or NGOs that can also compete for these grants. So 25 of these grants are going to be provided, and they're going to be giving out 9 million a year or 29 million over 3 years. So if you win this award, you're going to get either 9 million a year or 29 million over 3 years. One of the things that I wanted to look at was the required activities of this harm reduction program. So we recognize that we're still imprisoning people for drugs, but one of the required activities is that you must purchase equipment and supplies to enhance reduction efforts, such as safe smoking kits supplies, in other words, paraphernalia for smoking, and substance tests, including test strips, fentanyl, other synthetic drugs, which is good, and then syringes to prevent control the spread of infectious diseases. So you're providing a safe space for people to do drugs in. Mind you, drugs are still criminalized. So it's not that they're going to let you use drugs and then later on they're going to, if you get caught for them, after they're helping you to use them and teaching you the proper way to go about using them and how to help possibly wean yourself off, but they're giving you the safe space to do it in. But as you're using these drugs, they're still criminalizing drug usage. And that's the problem I have with the program, is that you have a program that's quote unquote a harm reduction program, and it's to help people as they're utilizing drugs and make sure that they're safe in doing it. But at the same time, you're going to imprison them later on and put them in that criminal category later on and put them in that convict leasing system later on, right? So you're teaching them how to use it. You're giving them some addictive substances. They're going to get on these addictive substances, or they're already on the addictive substances. You're not ripping them off, and you're subsidizing it through the government. You're giving these government entities millions of dollars. 25 government entities, you're giving them $30 million each, and over the course of 3 years, in order to make sure that they can help you and provide you this we're not going to give you the drugs. We're going to give you the paraphernalia and the stuff to use.
Listen, this is what really, again, and we can get even deeper when it comes to the disparity of how now, what should we call it, opioids are being treated versus how cocaine and crack cocaine were being treated. The medical approach to addiction as opposed to the criminalizing and the criminal approach to addiction that Black folks experienced for 30 years. And now all of a sudden we have to understand that this is an addiction and they're sick. Now that it is a plague that has hit middle America. And there are many who take issue with this and say, okay, why was it not, what is good for the goose is not good for the gander? Why, when Black folks were in the street literally also dying, right? Lives are being taken, families destroyed. It was criminalized. Oh my gosh, women would go into hospitals with drug addicted babies and be arrested.
Well, I'm not gonna mention this name because I don't want it on your channel because
yeah, don't mention no name. Go ahead.
There's a person in a very high office right now who has a son who is a whole crackhead, right? And this person is the quote unquote leader of the free world, whose son is, and I'm trying to think, can I put a picture of him up where it doesn't get I don't want to demonetize.
Don't go that far. You making my make me nervous. Let me drink my water.
But the leader of the free world, everybody knows who I'm talking about. His son, who's still alive, because he has passed. The other one, and you can. This is a quick Google search. The same way I just gave you that information.
It's an alleged. Let's say alleged. So
it's not even alleged. He stated it. It's in the Time. It's in the Time magazine article where he stated that he's addicted to crack cocaine.
Well, okay, pause. We're gonna get off the rails a little bit.
But because his son is having that issue, then we need to be understanding.
More understanding. Right. All right. Now we done hit some nails on the head. But hold on. Let me do a quick reset. Cause I gotta get y'all. Thank you for supporting the stream. Welcome. Blessings on blessings. Apparently, we are going deeper than Juneteenth. We're definitely getting into the Black experience, but I got the right one for it. Savior Black doing work, because his knowledge is so vast, y'all. And one thing makes you think of another thing, and I'm not knocking it at all, because in my head, I'm just like, yes, these things, they're related. We connected the dots. So although we're talking about Juneteenth, the conversation, I think the greater African-American experience is related to, how are we positioning this in terms of a place of significance? Did y'all email? I was going to email some people Happy Juneteenth, but then I was like, I don't know. I was going to email. I was like, I can't wait to email certain people Happy Juneteenth. I was going to do like a newsletter, but then I was like, nah, let me stop. I don't know. I was going because did I do it before? I don't think I did it before, but I wanted to do it, but I did it.
I'm very conflicted on it because it's positioning for us as black people in this country. Do we?
I don't know. They celebrate like the least thing, I don't know, because I don't want to say least because I'm talking about all the freedom fighters up to that, Buffalo Soldiers, that. I'm talking about all the people who fought till the Clotilda and the last ship came. You get what I'm saying? There is a significance to it. Don't get me wrong. I say least. I don't mean it in terms of the historical presence of just warriors.
No,
American warriors. But I just feel like those Africans who would become Americans did a lot more than wait on the news. You feel me? And correct. So it's just a little bit of the framing of it is what I want to drill down on. Not that I want to minimize any of the hard fought, but that's what it does. It's like we're back to that. Okay, is it what I'm not thinking those people when I hear Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Right. And I should be.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's the narrative.
I'm thinking, how do we weave it in? That's how I'm like, because that's really what it should be about. The freedom fighters who led to the freedom. Yeah. The first regiments of Black soldiers to the Union Army. Jesus, I could get so excited about just thinking about that history. Because guess what? To go from one day, 1 month being somebody's property to the next day being a full-fledged man under the law. That's what I want to celebrate. That's what I want to talk about. That shift. It is an incredible shift.
And it was a good.
Say, we We got a uniform on. We got a gun.
But and for the Black people at the time, that was one of the better times for Black people here in this country. Was right after that time frame. It has all the way up until 1876 at the Compromise of 1877. Up until that point, that was a really good time in the country for Black people as far as being able to come up out of the slavery, to have that opportunity to sit there and start advancing. It was a good time for Black people at the time. You have if you read a lot of the people's writings during that time frame, or a lot of the Black folks who had writings during that time frame, it was a really, really, really good time up until that Compromise of 1877.
You're talking about Reconstruction.
Well, yeah, I say so.
They don't teach Reconstruction in the schools.
No, I say because during that
they don't teach. Jesus.
Well, during that time frame, you think about all the people who were living during that time frame, and what it is they actually went through during that time frame for us, and a lot of things that they were putting in. A lot of when you actually started getting people integrating into and building the Black wall, all of these things were happening during that time frame, and then they had the Compromise of 1877. And that Compromise of 1877 is what killed all the work that went on.
Tell them what it is, because people don't learn Reconstruction.
Okay,
so the advancements. Now, this is where the political will was lost, right? You have a bunch. Thank you, DL. By the way, DL, go over and watch his show, guys. They are hiring air traffic controllers right now. I think the deadline might be today. So if you are interested in a career change and looking for something interesting, DL did a show on air traffic controllers. He was one. He's airborne, as he always loves to say. Thank you for the generous gift. He says, just showing love. Can't stay. Okay, no problem. But yeah, always supporting my content. I thought he was going to pop up, my friend, and maybe give us a little bit of background on those air traffic controllers. I'm going to hit the link right now. So to join the conversation, you can come up. Just so we can keep the conversation rolling. So if you want to come up, talk about your feelings towards Juneteenth, this is the time. And yeah, as we were saying, Reconstruction, for those who don't know, after the Civil War, so we got 1861 Civil War starts, 1863 Emancipation Proclamation, 1865, everybody finally learns that they are indeed free. Africans in Galveston, Texas, enslaved, would become African Americans, enslaved descendants of Africans brought here, found out, we're done. Can you imagine? I would be so gangster. I look up like, bruh, hold that. Like,
you think of people like Ida B. Wells, and
not to make light of it, no, but I just think about, again, the mental shift. You look up at that dude at so-called owners of you, and you like, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.
And this before they could because during that time frame of Reconstruction, it was actually starting to work. They were actually
okay. Sorry, I was getting
franchise. No, I'm saying, but they're actually becoming their franchise. They're saying, okay,
what was it? It wasn't even 10 good years after the Civil War, because you said 1877. So 1865 Civil War technically ends. We have Juneteenth that year. So from 1865 to what you say 1877.
It was the Compromise of 1877.
So let's say, I don't even know if I call it 12 good years. I would say 10 great years where by law, what we would deem to be, I don't know if I should call it an affirmative action framework, but a framework where that's when we get our first members of state houses, the first elected Blacks from Florida in the Florida State House, the Florida Senate. We get judges pushed into office, voted on. Now there are requirements for opportunities all over the country. And in the South, Blacks are starting to make leaps and bounds in terms of progress and political access, economics. But then it was too much for our brethren. And they was like, oh, heck no.
And I say, because when they
came too far in this amount of time. Oh my goodness, read about Reconstruction. What can happen when the doors are open? And then they quickly was like, nah, bruh, we're going to have to close them doors right in your face. So go ahead now, 1877.
So
What happened?
so in 1877, that was the compromise of 1877. That was right after they had the election of 1876, and there was a contested election. This was the blueprint for what we just seen with
We
the January.
talking about the United States presidential election.
Yes.
Okay,
So
I know what you're talking about,
yes.
but I'm
So,
trying to make sure everybody who's watching follows you.
yeah.
So there is a presidential election. Hey, Kenardak, I see you in the back. That happens, and what does this compromise basically say?
So the compromise is basically this. So when they were like, okay, we will let the Republicans win the election, or we'll concede the election, is what the Dixiecrats said at the time. And they're going to concede it to the Republicans on the contingency that they made 3 concessions to them. And the 3 concessions were: one, they wanted to have a transcontinental railroad running through the South, the same way you had the transcontinental railroad through the North. That didn't happen. They wanted to have people from that Dixiecrat party embedded in the cabinet of the incoming president, which did happen. And the first thing, but I just mentioned it last at this point, that they wanted to have happen is that they wanted to remove all federal troops from the South that was making integrate
all of Reconstruction possible.
And that one they got.
As soon as the federal troops move, welcome Jim Crow.
Welcome Jim Crow. Welcome the KKK. All of that stuff came about.
Terrorism.
Right. Yes. So and they came about like, oh, so you guys want to remain in power? All right, so just sell out the black people.
Pull the federal troops out of the South.
Yeah.
So then you get hell to pay for like the next, how much years? 1870s, 1890s. Jesus. Lynchings.
Yeah.
All kinds of black terrorism used against black people.
Well, that was
nobody checking it. Our federal government didn't check it.
They were they had the troops down there because they knew that they needed force in order to enforce Reconstruction, right? They needed to have physical force, the people with the guns down there, in order to enforce Reconstruction. When they pulled them out, KKK came to power. Everything shot. It was just.
It was back to the old days. Then we got sharecropping. Oh, I'm gonna lease back the land. You have to buy the seed from me. You have to buy this from me. Then you had homestead. I think about some of the freedom fighters here in Florida that I've read about.
Oh, you had a lot. Yeah, quite a few.
I'm getting goosebumps. All right, y'all enjoying the conversation? Hit the like button. I'm like overwhelmed, thinking about some of the pain and promise. Let's go, y'all. Yeah, let me skip over all these comments about the alleged. Okay, let's get it.
I had a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. He mentioned that individual's name, and for whatever reason, YouTube took his video down.
No, don't do that. Don't do that. All right, moving on.
That's why I don't mention his name.
The word slave is meant to strip humanity from you, right? We don't say Africans who were medicine men, healers, teachers, ministers, and preachers. Whoever they were brought here on your ship to bring that knowledge and continue to work as those, professionals, if you will, but just in bond. But yes, this idea that they were just, scared of it, out of their minds, and kind of hapless, mindless, it is a way to paint you so that you don't think you were anything until they made you something. Oh God, Correct. They don't want it. They don't want it. Andrew on the super sticker. Thank you, Andrew Kenardak. What are you feeling tonight? How you doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Happy to have you always. You looking like you sitting outside in a nice, cool evening breeze.
Actually, I'm inside and it's kind of hot.
Okay. Yeah. I always thought that was you posted up outside. Just kidding. So how are you feeling about the Juneteenth holiday? How you feeling about tonight's topic? Again, generosity is flowing tonight. Thank you. Shout out to Andrew Walker, NYC in the building on the super sticker. But what are you feeling about the Juneteenth holiday? How are you experiencing this?
Well, first of all, thank you, Suzette, and Savior Black, man. You dropping gems, man. You dropping gems, and I'm loving it.
Love it.
But no, I didn't celebrate Juneteenth. I'm not gonna.
No celebration for you. Okay. No. Why not?
And Doug said he found out about it in 1999, and I thought, man, when did I find out about Juneteenth? I think it was about 12 years ago. But I question these celebrations all the time because I think, okay, why are they pushing this? And what's the real goal here? You know what I mean? I understand, because my mom used to tell me, okay, it's important to know your history, but don't be a prisoner to it. And
that's good.
I think of, okay, are we only supposed to remember big events between slavery and civil rights? Is there anything before that? And then the modern era, you know what I mean? It's like, I wonder what we're going to be talking about in 2042, 2052. Are we still going to be reflecting on the past more? Or are we going to have some major impactful stuff in the 1990s that we're talking about or celebrating or creating holidays for or whatever? So these are the questions that run around in my mind when it comes to things like this.
I hear you. The fact that they want everyone to focus on this particular holiday. Again, I knew, there was a woman, forgive me, I don't remember her name, who was petitioning for a federal holiday for Juneteenth. She was from Texas, Mother of Juneteenth. I forget her name. Someone please. Sergeant Claiborne, they done brought you into the conversation. I see the passion from the comments. But there are people who maybe feel different. I'm just playing devil's advocate than what we're saying here. There are people that are passionate about Juneteenth and wanted this to be a national holiday, fought for this to be a national holiday, thought...
I don't remember the push, Suzette, but you might be right.
Pardon? Go ahead.
I don't remember the push for that, but you might be correct.
Yeah, well, in certain corners, like maybe out of Texas.
Yeah.
Right. It's their holiday. Yeah, it's their holiday.
You said, okay, tell us how you really feel. Go ahead, Sarge. Go ahead. Tell us how you really feel. Come on.
It's their holiday. I went to Talladega College, HBCU founded in 1867, and some of my classmates were from Texas, and that was part of their culture. But I'm saying, as far as the whole country celebrating it, I'm like Savior Black, but whenever we want to learn about history and everything, I think that's a good thing. I love history, but I'm with Savior Black. That's probably more of, that's their Galveston, Texas. That's not a national thing.
I'm digesting, not agreeing or disagreeing. Respond. Anybody want to respond? I'm digesting.
I know.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Karnard. I say, because I agree with that, but because it's I like the fact that it starts the conversation. I just don't like the fact that, like I said, it's a regional thing. It's not a national holiday. It's a regional thing where here in Texas, from Galveston all the way to Texas in 1865, that's when we learned about General Order 3 or the Executive Order 95. That's when we learned about it, and it's a good conversation, a good topic for discussion. But to me, it's not a national holiday, and I had this discussion there at Texas Southern University. That was my alma mater, and with a lot of people there. And that's one of the things we used to always discuss and argue about. You would have the congressmen and everybody come in and come talk about it. And there were some that agreed, some that didn't. But I'm of the opinion, like what you say, that it's a regional thing. It's a good history point. It's something that we can talk about, such as here. What is it? There was a college that was it Tennessee A&L. I say we can talk about Tennessee A&L. That's something that recently came up, but that would be a Tennessee thing, and it'd be something that we could talk about. That's because I like Black history.
Yeah.
About that here recently. God dog it.
Find it out, but I want to get Kenardak to jump into. Go ahead, Kenardak.
Well, the other thing too that I think about is that this happens around Father's Day. Is this another strategy to sort of undercut that? Because Father's Day doesn't really get a whole lot of attention as it is. Yeah. So then you have this come along. It's pushed federal hardcore by a who, and then now we're just supposed to ignore.
It doesn't. Did it coincide with Father's Day last year too?
Did it?
Or will it always coincide with Father's Day weekend?
It's gonna be around that time. I don't know.
Maybe it's around the same time. At least June.
That as a point. Thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, it's June. I mean, usually you're preparing to celebrate with your dad.
I'm just gonna look ahead at my calendar. So our panelists have shared that maybe it seems out of place as a federal holiday for the nation to be celebrating what happened in Texas. Again, I would welcome other points of view. For it might always be Father's Day weekend. Oh my goodness. June 19th will be the following Monday. Interesting. Yeah, just looking ahead at the calendar, I'm like, wow, will it always coincide with Father's Day? Wow. So yes, there is some, and I did this. Me and Savior Black had talked about topics offline. This was another topic we had came up with: should single mothers be celebrated on Father's Day? Y'all don't want to go there though, but this is open mic Monday. This is open mic Monday because I saw my good friend Gail at night post. I don't want to hear no Happy Father's Day to the ladies, and y'all know who I'm talking about. Something she had posted, and I was like, I had to read it twice, and I was like, what does she mean by this? And I was like, oh, do people tell women who have full custody, I guess, or have only, just been the parent on their own, should you wish them Happy Father's Day the way? I don't know if y'all want to go there. This is open mic though. This is I'm just saying.
You know me, I'll step on a grenade.
It had crossed our minds. It had crossed our minds when we were coming up for the open mic, and I was like, "Well, it is Juneteenth, though, so I think we should just talk about Juneteenth." But it is. Go ahead, Sarge.
Can we get back to slavery? I just want to make 2 points real quick.
Go ahead. We ain't moving on. But yes, go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, somebody mentioned indentured servitude. Okay, in this country, let's look at colonial Virginia as the start of slavery, because that's where it happened as far as with the British colonies. And that happened in 1640. 3 indentured servants escaped. 2 of them was white, 1 of them was black.
Yep.
Yeah, John Punch, right? They all got caught together. They all escaped together. They were friends. They were doing the thing together. They had the same master and everything. Okay, the white indentured servants were given an additional year to serve the colony, an additional year to serve the master. All right, John Punch was made a slave for life. And that's what ushered on the process of slavery in colonial Virginia. Absolutely. All right, so that happened in 1740.
Right. Was it 17 or 16?
Thank you. 1640. Exactly. Good catch. Thank you. So after that happened, then we jump all the way. The other issue we talked about was the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment only freed the slaves who were in rebellion. It didn't free any slaves when it was written. It didn't even free the slaves in the White House. They still had slavery in the White House.
You're talking about
the Emancipation Proclamation, the border states, Kentucky. So it was meant so that the Confederacy could be defeated. That was the purpose of it. It wasn't really meant to free slaves. So there are a couple of misnomers because there's a big thing going around Montgomery, maybe some other places. I'm in Montgomery, Alabama, and it's called Wash Night. Have y'all heard of this? Wash Night?
We celebrate Wash Night down here where every New Year's, we celebrate it down here. I went to Wash Night services as a child.
Okay, but do you understand how it's good to celebrate certain things, but we have to look at the reality. Just like you talked about the reality of these people in Galveston, Texas, not finding out what happened in the world for a period of time. It doesn't even make sense. Why would all the slaves be together at church at night, at midnight? What slave owner would allow this? If that was the case, slavery wouldn't have lasted as long as it did. All right. So the whole mythology behind the Wash Night was the slaves were all together in church, waiting for the Emancipation Proclamation to be signed and go. How would they find out about this?
TPOO said it was Wash Night for slaves that were running. They didn't throw that part in.
Every night was Wash Night.
So there was no, I never really thought about this, Sarge. So there was no Watch Night.
Right. Every night was Watch Night because they wanted to get out of slavery every time. Black people have always protested injustice. John Punch protested injustice when he ran away. Everybody. And the crazy thing is he was able to marry a white indentured servant at the time. And he had a child.
Oh, they had not made interracial marriage illegal yet. Wow.
No, they had to make this stuff up because one thing that British common law, and you probably know more about this than I do, but British common law was you could not be a slave if you were a Christian. So that's a hurdle that they had to overcome. And the second hurdle they had to overcome was, according to British common law, you had the status of your father. So that means if, you know, your mother was a slave and your father was free, you got your father's status. So there were freedom suits, all kind of stuff. They straightened out all that mess to make as much money as possible. So once they got rid of those two, they set the foundation, and it just, and slavery.
It didn't matter who your daddy was. One drop.
No. So John Blunt actually married, because there weren't a lot of black people at the time in the colonies. He actually married a woman, had a child, and by the third generation, they all had the same. It's the bunch name. Just look it up and research it yourself. But it had grown and gotten so out of control that his grandson was not allowed to marry a white woman, because by that time they had come up with exactly. So this watch night thing, I went to a service at Dr. King's church, as a matter of fact, right here in Montgomery, Dexter King Memorial Baptist Church, and Dexter Avenue King Memorial Baptist. And they were celebrating watch night, and I was just sitting by there, and they read the Emancipation Proclamation, and I was just shaking my head like, nah, it's not possible. But anytime we can get information and learn more about history. So
I'm still sorry, Sarge. I'm still mad at this. So you're saying there's no historical record of slaves being able to go to church together on New Year's to pray in the new year and possibly pray in their freedom? There's no historical record of this?
Suzette, let me ask you this. If you had slaves, let's say you had 100 slaves, would you want them to gather up together at church at midnight?
No, I wouldn't.
That doesn't sound too safe.
No, but you're going to make me do research.
Even when we had church, there were certain safeguards in that church. Even the Bible, certain things were.
Yeah, they didn't read every passage.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it was a controlled environment. This system wouldn't have worked unless they had maintained it. We didn't want to be slaves. So why would you let a whole bunch of people that you were oppressing gather up together at midnight with no supervision?
I'm hearing you, and now I got to go do my research, because I've always just gone to watch my service, hearing the same thing, and I think I'm celebrating my ancestors by attending. Yes, the last good man in Jersey is right. I'm like,
it's a good sentiment. It's a good thought, but slavery wasn't a benevolent thing. You know, it wouldn't have lasted. You know, they wanted to keep the slaves in the dark, so to speak. That sounds like a recipe for a rebellion. You get all the slaves together at midnight in one place.
I say get them all. Get everybody who's oppressed ready to go, huh?
Thing is like, okay, George Washington, right? He said all the slaves were to be freed upon his wife's death, and I was like, man, I'm sure he had to keep that information, hold it close to the vest. You know, because we can laugh a little bit. Sometimes you can laugh on Mondays, right?
No, that's good. You're like, because they would have been ready.
They're free, right? When he's gone, they're free.
Been like, she would have been gone a hot minute and be like, oh, when she's gone, we get to go? All right.
So yeah, people in the chat are confused. Miss AKA Lady, what's up? She said, so I'm confused. Is there a record or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So it's not like TCOO says, slave owners definitely didn't let slaves watch for the proclamation signing.
Right, there was no way to watch the proclamation signing.
Right. And how would they get? Were they looking for an email? Were they going to get the text? I mean,
no, I don't mean every slave on every plantation unite.
I know.
I'm talking about people had slave quarters with churches. This is historical record. Where they worship, and I understand what you're saying though. All at midnight, all at during New Year's Eve, would you as a plantation owner allow that? And I get your point. Fully get your point. I just have not done the research, so I can't respond in any way but just to listen. And then later on, I can go back. Kennard, do you want to add anything?
I'm ignorant on the watch night, so I have to go back.
Me too. I just don't want to say anything because I don't know.
I'm actually adding it to my list of things.
Things I got to look up.
You guys were talking about Reconstruction, though, because there's an interesting book by a guy named Ralph Ginsberg. I forget when this was published, but anyway, it's called 100 Lynchings. And it's basically a book that features newspaper articles, just the newspaper articles talking about the lynchings between 1899 and 1964.
Yeah.
And I read that and I thought about it, with this whole Juneteenth thing, like, man, there was a lot of stuff going on after that we're still dealing with. And so it's interesting. And then going back to the regional topic that Sarge was just talking about in terms of regional celebrations, if that's the case, they might as well celebrate what happened here in LA with the housing covenants. My family came out here. My family was sort of a byproduct of the Great Migration. A lot of people, when they think about the Great Migration, they only think of going to the north or the
Chicago,
eastern seaboard.
Detroit.
But a lot of them came out here,
Correct.
from Louisiana, Texas, Kentucky, Carolinas.
My family.
So, the housing covenants were in place, were lifted in 1948. I wouldn't have grown up here in mid-city Los Angeles if that wasn't lifted in 1948.
So for people just who don't know, a covenant, and especially in Florida, we still have a lot of these covenants on the books, that housing, as we know, the history of, or maybe you don't, let's educate everyone, history in the United States pre 1980, but I would say 70s, but had restrictions in many neighborhoods as to where Black people could live. And they said literally in the actual documents filed with the county, filed with this whatever municipality, this house could only be sold to a white person. This house could not be sold to a colored person. And many of these are still, even though people have indirectly moved into these neighborhoods now, but some of these laws or covenants are still on the books all over the country.
Yeah, it's covert.
And it's sick and it's sad. And again, we just kind of pretend it never happened.
And that's a big deal, because people don't usually think, when they think LA, they don't think that we were dealing with things out here.
Everywhere of this country was dealing with something.
And Hattie McDaniel she was in the movie Gone with the Wind. She played the maid. She was the one that led the charge. It was her, Ethel Waters, and I forget the other. It was three ladies that led the charge for the defeat of this covenant. And so, because that's why Compton, South Central Los Angeles, Inglewood was all white at one point. But there's moves forward and then there's steps back. And then I kind of question a lot of this stuff, so it's just an interesting discussion overall.
And I hear you, the Alaska manager, just want to know where we're heading. If you just came on, we've been all over the map. The Juneteenth experience is just not, let's talk about what happened in Galveston. Let's talk about all the other history that is being ignored. Let's talk about all the other things that could have been celebrated. I think it goes very well with and segues with why we may or may not want to celebrate Juneteenth. So I don't think it's a non sequitur, but thank you keeping us on point, the Alaska man in Jersey. But yeah, the narratives about who we are as African people, descendants of African people, now American. It is a very touchy subject because how people frame us, rest in peace, Godfather, how our image is portrayed will have an impact on the generations that go forward of Black and white and Hispanic and everyone else. So the framing of who we are via a holiday is quite important. And what narrative goes along with that framing is super important. Because yet again, are we placed in the front or are we placed in the back? Yet again, are we given a passive experience or the freedom fighting experience? That's not, we didn't want to celebrate, Crispus Attucks or whoever. Like, I could think of Nat Turner. I could think of like all these other freedom fighters, but you don't learn about Marcus Garvey. You don't learn about the folks who were true revolutionaries in America. You learn about the peacekeeping, passive, docile remake of who MLK was. MLK wasn't even that. People hated him. Martin Luther King, when he walked this earth, he was hated and despised by a good majority of our countrymen. All of a sudden, he's loved and loved, and again, we have to provide a historical framing for what people thought like back then. But it's just like, again, who writes these narratives and why? And are we in control of our own narrative? The Juneteenth already was about to be ice cream and cake. It was about to be ice cream and cake and barbecue.
Again?
Yeah, I was going to point out the fact that so you talked about CRT earlier, and for me, it's criminal essentially to keep out that critical race theory out of the classrooms or out of the schools, and because what you're doing essentially, you're saying, well, it's everybody we reduce it down and we talk about slavery and the things that happen with slavery, and we say, oh, slavery is not important. It's extremely important within the stream of how has it because it's a part of history, and you're kind of saying, yeah, but I'm not. As I hear from white people a lot of times, where yes, but I didn't do what my grandfather did. Blah 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 blah. Why should I be punished? And what they want you to say is like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Why should you be punished? But what they also forget, like, let's say their great grandfather robbed a bank, and then you take out the fact that yeah, your great grandfather robbed the bank, but your family's still living off that money. There was never any restitution from it. And not only is he living off that money, or you guys are now living off that money, and you guys are benefiting from the robbery that he did. Now you're making laws or enacting laws, and we can't even talk about the fact that your grandfather robbed the bank, and that your family is still to this day benefiting from it. So you don't want the negatives, but you're taking all the positives of all the money that he stole from all these other people that didn't get restitution, and their families are suffering throughout time, and we can't even talk about it. Now you're going to bring up a law that says we can't even talk about it, we can't even teach it, we can't even get that healing, like you talk about the ability to sit there and have some reconciliation. We can't even get that.
And again, critical race theory is not taught in K through 12.
No,
it is a graduate level and law school level course. But I want to know, is they going to stop the people from celebrating Black History Month now? Is that gone?
Oh, no.
Is that called critical race theory now? The people we can't even get Rosa and Sojourner and a couple other names dropped every year. The 5 Black people we supposed to remember.
If it makes white kids feel bad, can you talk about it? That's how these laws are being taught. I say,
welcome to Florida.
Well, I have a list of laws. Let me see if I can pull that up for you in a moment.
Don't say gay and anti-woke. That's what they're being called here. I'm not going to go deep in that because I just had a conversation with a person about this, and I can't go into because it's related to a case. I was trying to just get some information about the number of Black people, let me just say, in a certain industry. And they say, oh, we don't collect that information because it has nothing to do with the permitting. I said, okay, because I'm finna hit you with a subpoena, right? So I'm like, okay. Why aren't you collecting this information?
My bad.
Oh, it's not related to, we want fairness across the board, whether the person is, whether it's gender or whether it's race, it has nothing to do with the permitting. But I said, I need to understand how many people got the permits who are non-white. No, we don't collect that. We don't want to be unfair. If I could give y'all the full picture, I was like, it's been unfair. That's why I'm asking you for the information. But you conveniently say it's not required to collect that information by law, that it's going to cost you money to maintain the data. What's another check box? But you don't really want to know, and you don't want the public to know. And so we can't say discrimination or not because we don't still know how many. We don't know how many, and it was just about fairness. And I wanted to say I was so professional. I was proud of myself, guys. I was like, we talk about fairness, but there's a deep disparity and a history of disparity under the law, which is why I'm asking you for what I'm asking you for. But we have industries that are protected, and again, now we're like, oh, we don't want housing discrimination. But look how many years there is not. It's not a coincidence that the tracts of many small towns and cities are the dividing line. It's not a coincidence. This was a design and a byproduct of laws of years gone by. But again, can we talk about it, or is that critical race? Or is that American history?
It's history. I say there's an author, Ta-Nehisi Coates. He recommended this book, and I read it, and it's a phenomenal read called "The Color."
The Brick Singer. I'm listening. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's called "The Color of Law," and it talks about specifically the red line, because the Supreme Court at one point said that people segregating, or white people wanting to be with white people, Black people wanting to be with Black people, and the way that the neighborhoods are just that they happen, it's not de jure segregation. It's de facto segregation. People just happen to do it. And they completely ignored, and in his book, this guy, he's a Jewish guy named Rothstein. This was book, like, again, it was recommended by Ta-Nehisi Coates. But when I read it, he went like chapter and verse. Okay, this law was made, and this was the outcome in Chicago. Then this was done, like you talking about California. This is the ones that were done in California, and this is how it set up these neighborhoods in California. And it's like, so when the Supreme Court says it's just de jure, that it wasn't de jure, there were no laws that did it. He went through and said, no, it was actually all the laws that did it. You guys actually.
What are they talking about? That's why I'm like, we can't allow people to rewrite history and pretend. And all of a sudden, in 60 years, people think there was no such thing as 150 years of by law, separate, so-called but equal. Jim Crow. The prevention of educational opportunities, the prevention of all the middle classness that came with home ownership.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Equity out of your house. I say, because you can't.
That's what I'm saying. What made America's middle class is the opportunity to buy a home from the 50s and 60s and 70s when the GIs was coming home. But we're talking about economic wealth now that grandparents have passed that down 1 and 2 and 3 generations. That there's no historical significance to all these laws. Y'all better go somewhere. Y'all better go somewhere. It rises up my blood pressure. Let me read some comments. Let me rising up my blood pressure. Because the fact that they want Black folks to believe in a vacuum, Americans to believe, all of our experiences are in a vacuum. Nothing happened in the last few hundred years that has had an impact on your life or my life, right?
Oh. Yeah, so that would be the preferred way of how they want to go about doing it.
And I see you, Doug, talking about it's always back to slavery. I'm not even talking about slavery, bro. I'm talking about your lender walking into a bank. Oh no, thank you. I'm talking about job opportunities. Oh no, thank you. I'm talking about all the ways in which economic stability is built, and you having a second classness in terms of access to any of it. For however many years, count it from when you want to count it. Count it from 1877. Count it from 1640. Count it from wherever. But we don't want to face that. We want to say, oh, but now is now. But if it was your ancestry, okay, my head is gonna hurt me. Hold on, Friendsgiving. I'm sorry, Friendsgiving. What's up, girl? Nice to see you. Says very informative discussion. There's so much hidden history. Again, I know we're all over the place. We're talking Juneteenth, but we're talking about the African-American history that kind of relates to the Juneteenth discussion. And so it is not going to just be I like this holiday, I don't. Let's talk about it. And that's why we're kind of peeling back the onion on more than the Juneteenth experience, because it's all relevant. It's all relevant. But thank you, Henry Sunbreeze. Jesus Christ. Friendsgiving. Sunbreeze hit me with that 100 wood. I'm still on that. Thank you, Friendsgiving, for your generosity. Y'all done bless me so much, I'm confused. Thank you very much. Let me read the Brick Slinger showing love. How are you? Thank you guys so much. This is a fantastic stream. I hope you're enjoying. Go ahead. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Doing well. Thank you. How do you feel? And what are your thoughts on tonight's convo?
First things first, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this discussion. So far, the topic, the conversation so far, as I just got into it, is very interesting that we're speaking on Juneteenth. Salute to Savior Black and the rest of the brothers that's up here. My thing is, as far as Juneteenth goes, it's dope that we celebrate it because we know the true history of Juneteenth. The only issue I have now is that now that it's a quote unquote federal holiday, it seems that since President Joe Biden became president, it seems as if this has become the holiday to be acknowledged by the whole country, as opposed to just being something that's to us. Because now, and I'm not saying that we should not share it with the rest of the country, but I definitely do not want Juneteenth to be another quote unquote joke. You know what I'm saying? Because to us this means something. It means a lot to know that after the Civil War was over, the last state that kind of acknowledged that slavery was over after slavery was over was June 19th in Texas. And it's like after that we celebrated, and I know a lot of people want to say, well, Juneteenth is our Independence Day and this, that, and the third. When truth of the matter is, it's a celebration of freedom. It's a major difference between freedom and independence. And so far, we have a history of trying to be independent, but unfortunately, there has been an end point to that independency. It happens throughout in the history of Black Wall Street, whether it's Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Rosewood, Florida, heck, East St. Louis, Illinois, where I'm from. Many people don't even know the history of the race riot in East St. Louis. And there's more cities that experience this unfortunate situation where Black folks tried to do some independent stuff on their own. But and then civil rights becomes like the ultimate endpoint, because it was supposed to be about, hey, we're tired of being treated as if we're not humans. Let us be human. Let us do what it is that we've been trying to do. We've been trying to be successful under the Jim Crow. We're trying to be successful under a law that tells us you can't drink in this particular water fountain, but there's one for you. We can't go into this particular bathroom, but here's one for you. You can't go in this particular restaurant and eat at that counter, but you can go and eat in the back. We're trying to overcome.
At the same time, I watch you perform and I love your music. I want to steal all of your culture and repackage it with white artists.
Thank you.
Middle America.
Thank you. See what I'm saying?
I can't even.
So again, it's like we can't. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't share this with the world, but at the same time, it should not become a joke. Right. Because if they can do that to our history, if they can do that to our music, if they can do this to our quote unquote culture in our community, this becoming a holiday, what else they can do? Even though this is only been 1 year since it became a holiday, what more are they capable of doing?
So do you believe this should be a Texas thing instead of a national thing, or do you believe that it should be celebrated nationally?
It for us, it's always been a national thing, because we the one been celebrating for over 100 years.
I mean, I'm telling you, I learned about it here in Florida. I was celebrating it. I would, yeah. I maybe again I might be an exception, but I've always known about it. Thank you, Lord, to ladies who probably grew up down here, Daytona, Ocala. A lot of people also from Florida came down from Georgia, who were foundational Black. Alabama and such.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about it because I never really thought about it as regional. I never really thought about it as regional until this discussion. So yay, I'm making myself think.
Knowledge isn't regional. The knowledge is yeah. But the celebration of it, that's where is it something where we're going? Okay, well, everybody this happened in Texas. This is it's
a Black experience, though, is it not?
Yes,
I don't know.
It is Black experience.
It is but I'm saying, like, okay, so yes, those specific individuals in Texas got the message, but is it transcendent freedom to the Black person in terms of an experience or a symbol of that experience? Do you get what I'm saying? Or are we just finite those Black people in Galveston? Do you get what I'm saying? It's supposed to be, I think, why people were like, okay, let's make this a holiday, that Black emancipation deserves to be celebrated, not just the Galveston ride of General whoever.
Okay, so and this is where why I'm conflicted, and this is specifically why I'm conflicted.
Shout out to the super chats. Golly, y'all, thank you. Goodness, sorry, keep going.
Oh, yeah.
Baby Black, what is we picked? I thought this was gonna be.
Okay, so when you're looking at it and you're considering the fact that is this about Black emancipation, it comes down to that question of what is Black emancipation, because the Emancipation Proclamation, that executive order was 95, that was done in 63. That was when, if you're doing it then you're going to 65, which at June 19th in 65, which when we in Texas found out about it. Are we saying that that's the date of Black emancipation, or are we saying because the only thing that those things is those emancipated Black people who were in slave or states that were in conflict with the Union, or are we saying that the 13th Amendment is the emancipation of Black people, and that was done or fully ratified was at December 19th in 1965. So which one, as if we're celebrating Black emancipation, which one is actual Black emancipation? Is it emancipation of slavery? Is it for just a specific region, which is what Juneteenth would be? Is it for just the slave states, which would be the Emancipation Proclamation, which is with was it 63, January 1st of 63? That's what that would be.
1863, yeah.
1863. I'm sorry. Did I say 1963?
No, you say 63. I just want people to follow where you're going.
1863. So in 1863, that was where that would be. Or is it December 19th of 1865, which is the 13th
Amendment? The wrong day?
Well, that's the 13th Amendment. The ratification of the 13th Amendment is is fully ratified was December 19th of 1865. So when you're looking at it, which one is the actual emancipation? Is it when it went into law, or is it when the president made a declaration that only Southern states, or which one are we celebrating? Because Juneteenth is just the emancipation of Black people in Texas
the last Black people in America.
That's when General Order Number 3. That's the enforcement of the Emancipation Proclamation. That's what Juneteenth is. When they came into Galveston and they read that off in 1865, June 19th, 1865. That's what Juneteenth is. That was the last state that got that proclamation that you're in a slaveholding state that was against the Union. You guys can be free and you guys can take up arms against but at that time it was over, but that's what that was. But if you're saying
I hear what you're saying. Saberback told me you got 4 more dates that you wait, 2 more dates.
Okay, so here's the dates. 1863, that's the Emancipation Proclamation was done. June 19th, 1865 is General Order 3 or Juneteenth. And then December 19th, 1865 is the ratification or the signing of the 13th Amendment, the first of the Reconstruction amendments, right? That was 1865 December. That's the actual law that said it for all states, not just states that are in conflict with the Union.
Savior Black with the knowledge. Let's go. Who wants to respond?
If we're talking about emancipation, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sarge. I apologize. We shut up.
Oh, what you preaching facts, but I just want to say this stuff is so crazy because I've studied it. So you still had slaves that were part of the Indian territories because they had 5 civilized tribes, so-called civilized tribes, like the Cherokee, the Cheek, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and they had slaves. And their slaves did not get freed after the Civil War. Their slaves, they had to reach a certain compact with the government to release their slaves. And then their slaves became part of that tribe, like the Black Cherokees, whether they were.
Yeah, you have certain tribal members that when you look on their website, everybody Black. Everybody.
Yes, especially in Florida. You should know a lot about that with the Seminoles.
Very interesting. I just want to, sorry to interrupt, Sarge. I have to acknowledge this wonderfully generous, yet again, super chat. Net Ranger put 50 on it. How about that, y'all? Is that kind of nice? Happy Juneteenth.
Somebody celebrate.
Apparently, this is a great holiday. Thank you for the speakers of the Suzette Speaks show. People forget that the core of the modern day Republican Party descended from the Dixiecrat revolt that occurred in the 60s with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 under President LBJ Lyndon Baines Johnson. I want to get into it, but they don't say it's not Juneteenth, but it is relevant because a lot of people don't know this history because people will tell you Lincoln was a Republican, and he was, right? But there was a time when the parties did a switch. Oh, did y'all know this?
Oh, right. That's the what we're going to talk about too.
So people say, well, most Black people during Reconstruction was Republicans because they were Republicans, as in Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, right? If you're a foundational Black American, many of your great, probably two greats, three, will have been Republicans. But what Net Ranger has raised is a lot of history that some of us now may not know, and that the Republicans that are present day Republicans actually descended from what would have been the opposite party named the Democrats, obviously, but we call them the Dixiecrats. Does anyone want to give any more feedback? Savior Black, you want to jump into this? I'll
step on that. Yeah, I'll step on that
landmine a little bit more. Go ahead.
No, because when I look at that, that's an accurate statement. I would even push it back even further. I would put that back in the 1800s, specifically around, because the Dixiecrats really started coming in around the 1870s is when you really started getting that influx of Dixiecrats. Is that me?
Who got the sirens? I'm gonna mute everybody. I'm muting everybody. Everybody got to mute now. Everybody. Hey.
But
it's a Juneteenth party. Let's go. Hit the like button. Nardak, Sergeant Claiborne, the Brick Slinger, helping me do a wonderful show on Juneteenth and beyond. I guess I'll have to change the title. Please hit the like button. If you're watching Team Replay, go ahead and like and subscribe. Open mic Mondays. There were, again, a couple things on our mind, and we settled on Juneteenth. I'm glad we did, Savior Black. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
Thank y'all for everybody who's been supporting. But Savior Black is explaining what this wonderful super chat has brought to light. And I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead again.
Only thing I was also going to say was that, and that brings to mind for me, the fact that we here as Black people today, we always are loyal to a party. We're loyal to the Democratic Party, whether or not they have our best interests at heart or not. And I'm not saying vote Republican.
We ain't going that way. We ain't going too deep. Go ahead. Keep going.
What I am saying is do not be party agnostic. Look and see who's actually serving your interests. Hold them accountable. And if they're not serving your interests, don't just do the whole vote blue no matter who. Just because my grandfather was a Democrat, blah blah blah. Your great grandfather would have been a Republican.
Exactly.
So don't just look at who the party is or the name on the ticket or the letter or the color. Look and see whether or not they're actually serving your interest. And if they're not serving your interest, don't feel tied down to they're not.
So I'm gonna pick a scab. Then we're gonna because the point is that this is a commentary I've seen. Who did I ask? Oh, Mandrell. Mandrell was like, I'd rather have gotten significant criminal justice reform than a Juneteenth holiday. I rather gotten drug reform instead of Juneteenth holiday. Stop national, put a policy together for national chokeholds and other things instead of a national holiday. There is a list of things undone that seems to have been I'm not saying Mandrell, but a bait and switch. Some may characterize it as a watch the ball over here, so that we are not really focused on actual legal frameworks that will actually have emancipated our brothers and sisters. I'm just saying.
I agree. I agree. I said that's one of those statements that when they say it, you go, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Why are we not doing it? And that's one of those things. Someone one time put out something, and when they stated it, initially I had a lot of pushback. This was several years ago, but they were saying that just go vote down ballot. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, because I was like, well, I don't want to vote for the other party because da 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 da. And they were like, well, is this individual I'm like, no. They're like, just vote down ballot. As a vote the person that you want to, and then everybody else, let them feel the pain. I was like, well, isn't that? And now I started
What does
thinking,
that mean? Only vote one party, or don't
no,
vote anything at
not vote.
all, or skip
So,
everybody else and just vote for who you know? What does that mean to you?
so you, as a normally they'll have, if it's coordinated, what you'll do, you'll have, let's say they have the president, the vice president, blah, 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 down the ballot. And you'll vote one of them. Everybody can agree. Let's say, I'm not vice president. Let's say there's a senator. Everybody can agree on that senator. They'll vote the senator for the, as a, to serving that community's needs. And everybody else, because they don't want to vote for the other party, doesn't get a vote. So,
okay, I'm following. Okay, wait, let me follow. Say it one more time.
So let's say you have, so you have your ballot, and you have the president with the feet that's there. And you have
the US senator, your local state rep, your school board person, whatever. And so what would be the strategy?
The strategy there is you got to let them feel the pain, and it's probably going to hurt you as well.
Meaning not vote your party?
Not vote the entire party. As a just vote the one. Let's say it's the senator that you wanted to vote for. Everybody agrees this
or the judge or the whoever.
Or the judge, whoever. You vote the judge, and then you just leave the rest of the ballot blank.
I don't agree with y'all. I don't know.
Yeah,
do y'all research and know who you're gonna vote for, man. That's what I would say.
Your reaction was the reaction that I had when the reaction that you just had was the exact.
So what is supposed to do now? What is supposed to do?
The point of it was, when they were talking about just voting down ballot, was a lot of times we just vote for somebody and they know they're going to get our vote and they don't do anything for us. Like you said, they'll give us a holiday, they'll give us this, they'll give us that. Just go over there and go do something else, right? Stay out of our politics, stay out of the way. We'll give you some Pyrrhic victory over here that's worthless. You'll be happy. Just stay over there, and we're not going to do anything else for you. And in the meantime, they got you scared of the boogeyman, which is the other party. They're far worse than we are. Right, they're way worse than we are, and they're gonna eat your kids essentially, right? And the reality is they're not. It's not that it's gonna be good for you, but as until they feel the pain of, we're not voting for you at all. We're not gonna vote for you either. You need to do something for us. I'm gonna put you in power, and you're not gonna do anything. I'm gonna put them in power. They're not gonna do anything for us. When I'm talking about for us, I say the down ballot is I'm going to feel it right now, but later on, you're going to have to learn that you got to
respect my vote. Well, I don't know that I subscribe to that. That is a deeper conversation for sure. Anybody want to respond to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start with Sarge, and then we're going to go I'm going to call you Gunslinger, the Brick Slinger, and then Kinnaird. That's who I heard in that order. Go ahead, Sarge.
Yeah. If you get a chance to check out the ballot or the bullet speech by Malcolm X in 1964, he makes some of those same points about how black people are used as a political football by both parties. So if you look at that speech, you can get it on YouTube. The Ballad of the Bullet. He made some of those same points that you're making now.
Okay. Wonderful. Everybody can go check that out. Go ahead, Brick Slinger.
I totally agree with both Sergeant and Xavier Black for the information that they're bringing to the table, and that's how I'm kind of seeing how the politics game goes. Because, like I say, I don't want to see this particular holiday become a joke, because as it means something, And at the same time, if this holiday a federal holiday, it's one of those things where it's like, now that I got your vote, here's a holiday for you, your people. But everybody else, they're gonna get billed. Everybody else, they're gonna get their extra
money.
And the crazy thing is, one of my co-workers had a conversation about the stimulus check and how things were moving with stimulus check, and it had me thinking, if the government is moved the way the stimulus checks was moving when COVID
stimulus checks, yep.
I can only imagine what would have been like if it was a reparation check instead.
Lot of mercy. You open a bigger can of worms, sir, because people are saying there's a conspiracy theory around They were testing to see what people would do so that they knew exactly what happened. And then we would close the door after a reparations check would be issued. I ain't getting none. My folks born in Jamaica, but I don't know. Maybe one day a son or daughter might. I don't know. But yeah, it's a deeper conversation. I hear what you're saying. I want to read a few of the comments. TTO, I saw this earlier. It says, because it's a national holiday doesn't mean that it becomes less than. People control the meaning. I kind of agree with you. Now that it is in law. Yeah. Miss AKA Lady says, I'm from the Gulf Coast, so I'm close enough to Texas to understand how big it is to Galveston. We celebrated it too, but it always was very big in Texas. I got you. The last black man in Jersey. All right, yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up in a little bit. I'm tongue tied. The last good man in Jersey says Juneteenth is a good thing. Yes, I agree with this. Great point, Savior Black. The freeing of slaves wasn't a singular event. They were letting that free labor go. They weren't letting that free labor go easily. Exactly. So you had to put framework over framework over framework to finally get people free. You had soldiers literally occupying American cities to make sure freedom was enforced. And then when they left, we all know all heck broke loose, all chaos broke loose. So yeah, this is very important to understand. Why can't they be celebrated as a whole? Why get caught up so much in semantics? Ask TTOO. I understand. Yeah, I understand. That question. Everybody want to know where you got your shirt, Sarge. That was a big question I keep seeing.
I got this from the Rosa Parks Museum right here in Montgomery, Alabama at Troy State University.
Okay.
It's wonderful. Dream like Martin, lead like Harriet, fight like Malcolm, think like Garvey, write like Maya. I love it. If I could get a little bit of any of the, it's more at the bottom. Hold it up. I thought it was done. And you got speak like Frederick, educate like W.E.B., believe like Thurgood, and challenge like Roe. Jeez. Wow. That's a lot of ancestry right there.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Thank God for our ancestors. Wow, go ahead.
Yeah, but the comment that the lady made, she made a really good point because it's about what you put into history. Like the federal government doesn't have to tell us to celebrate Malcolm X's birthday. If we want to celebrate with our kids, our community, whatever, that's up to us to do. You know, he always said, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. But it's up to us to open the books. You know, the first book that I read was when I was 14 years old. It was Malcolm X on Afro-American history. And, you know, you can educate yourself. That's the best kind of education. Nobody has to give you a holiday. You know, make your own impact with your own history.
Absolutely. I'm going to comment here on, and I'll add Savory Black, you're up. After TTOO says, I have a family cemetery dating back to the 1700s. You are blessed. I know where my great-great-grandfather is buried as well, and have been told how I came to be from their lives. Absolutely. We have a strong family. I do reunions, and we are able to trace the European lines. The Black women, we don't really know all of their names. I'm just saying. So when I think about this in terms of who we are, how we choose to celebrate it, what about it we choose to take from it, and I agree with this point. The point I wanted to make is a lot of times what was not passed down in families was because it was painful. Our brothers and sisters who live these truths, if they actually told you about the wickedness, the violence, the state-sponsored terrorism, it was very painful for them to even teach and share. People will say, this generation dropped the ball, that generation, the Moses generation dropped the ball to this generation, I don't know, the X, Y, Z. There's a lot of pain in this history. That's why I'm kind of glad it allows for a joyful, may I color it myself to say joyful remembrance, but that there's any remembrance at all, so that we must have the conversations like we're having tonight that step on all those, toes in history. that the pain that we didn't talk about, the lostness that many of us feel, the strength that can come from being rooted in not the pacifists, not just saying for peace sake, but in the strong, resilient, and I'll go back to that, the fighter, the freedom fighter, the king mentality Black folks that have always existed, to have to readdress in our families personally, like Sarge is saying. Maybe this is a good thing because people stop telling the story. Not everybody, but many of us, it was painful. Many of us, do you guys get what I'm saying?
I get exactly what you're coming
That
from.
many times the pain. The lady who desegregated the school in Little Rock, Arkansas, is like 64.
Oh, I've got a picture right here on my wall.
Let's go, Sarge. Let's go. She's 64. It's not that long ago. Thank you. Let me make a close up.
Yeah.
Yes, Ruby Bridges. She's
Yeah,
that lady is pretty young. And to not be talking about it or the pain of it, we have one a month, the 28 days. We talk about it here and there. But maybe we do need to be doing some of this scratching of that wound. The surface is not served us well, not served the country well. Maybe this is a good thing. Who would like to respond?
I was going to respond to that because based off your comment and Sarge's comment earlier, and then there was one in the comment section as the comments are going up, and dealing with the fact of making our own celebrations, because that's what Juneteenth initially was, right? Juneteenth was a regional celebration. It was something that everybody recognized regionally that was of significance to the region, and then and now it's national. It's a national holiday. And I think that point that you guys are making is extremely important, in that we take all of we look at our history, we take the good, the bad, and the ugly, because they don't want to talk about it, they don't want us to have it, and we start finding those things that are celebratory within our communities, right? Those things that are celebratory and some of it's gonna hurt. And it's you're not going to get to the other side of it. You have to go through it, right? The only way to get to the other side, you got to go through it. So some of it is going to hurt, and we're going to have to learn about those things, those aspects of our history. There's a lot of positive out there, and there's some negative. We get inundated with the negative all the time. And I would like for us to start inundating ourselves with the positive. There was a commenter that talked about, we talk about slavery and what are you going to do? And that's one of those things of what you can do. You can find out about that history. You can find out what are those hurdles that we have to be overcome. What are some of the hurdles that we might still be dealing with? What are some of the things that we can do in order to overcome those things? And when it comes to us as Black people, are you supporting Black businesses? Are you dealing with your brothers and sisters in a way that they should be dealt with? Not they messed up, I'll never deal with them again. And then you go there and you go let the white man do you dirty every single time, and then you go and you still go back and give them your business. Do we have that same type of mentality, that same type of attitude with our brothers and sisters? And are we creating our own legacy and our own value system that we're sitting there that we can uphold? Because I seen it in the comments, and it's one of those things is, what can we do? Don't hide from it. Don't run from it. Acknowledge that what's there, and then also acknowledge some of the things that we've done, that we made mistakes that we might have made, and how can we also support one another going forward? And I think that's important going forward, is trying to figure out how do we support each other going forward, because
absolutely great points.
Supporting each other.
Kennard, you wanted to jump in? Oh, you muted. I had muted you because you was in the ambulance. You was in the ambulance. No, I can't hear you. I'm mute.
I want to hear, brother.
Yeah, I muted you in the ambulance.
Oh, my bad.
There we go. Yeah, I want to hear, brother.
Yeah. Right. I'm listening to Save Your Black, and I'm like, man, mic drop. What's amazing? At age 21 for me, I kind of evolved into a new position, because before that, I used to get angry. When I would hear about the history and all the stories and these kinds of things, it would really tick me off. But then I started to realize that this doesn't define me. This is temporary. I am borrowing this to function down here on the earth. That's it. I am going to have humility. I'm going to meditate every day and connect. And I'm going to shine light in every single direction that I go. I changed my energy completely. So all of the things that are a part of these discussions kind of was reduced. The pain, the suffering, the attacks, the conflicts, all of that was kind of vaporized literally at the drop of a dime, because I switched my energetic frequency. See, that's what I lean to, because we're only borrowing these bodies. We're not in them forever. And there's a power that we have that we need to put to use that is beyond flesh. It's good to talk about the history because you want to be aware of it, but don't be a prisoner to it.
Right.
Understand it and create. We are builders and creators. So we are in a very good time right now. You got to take advantage of it and understand what your real power is that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, that's spiritual. I hear you, brother. You preaching. I think as folks who this identity I didn't call myself black. I just was. Y'all don't want it.
No.
Y'all don't want it.
No. Come on.
Y'all, people create a whole class for you, and then mad when you in that class and suffering, and then want to address the suffering. It is amazing to me, and again, the beauty of being black, I will never, ever, ever want to remove. But I understand your point, Kennard, that when you want to say, I am a spiritual being, transcendent of race, transcendent of even nationality, transcendent of gender, just to experience, I'm sorry, I get goosebumps, but just to experience life in its fullness is my birthright. But people have put limitations on that. And it takes an extra strength to live beyond that, to push back from that and say, nope, nope, nope. You're not going to, your fear of me, your political structure is not going to limit me from having the fullness that I deserve, as all do who are members of humanity. That's really what this comes back to for me. I didn't impose these limitations in my mind. And then you mad. It's like you take away my dad and then you're mad and you laugh at me that I don't have a dad. I didn't create the circumstances that didn't give me a father. I'm living within a framework that was created by many in we won't talk conspiracy, but powers that be, that designed this so that their offspring, their loved ones will always maintain, as DL Saint would say, they have yachts. And then I'm supposed to, I don't know, I'm getting too philosophical, but I just think about how you really have to be a strong person, how our ancestors had to be really strong people to think of themselves as just human when people outside of their control piled upon them a limitation, an idea of who they were, of a way of being, of a second classness. You had to be so resilient. Doesn't seem to capture what I'm trying to say. To believe you are just a celestial being. And I don't know. I think about all of our experiences here through the American lens, the American experience of Black people. It just amazes me, the strength. Like I will use this holiday, and I saw the comment that this is a slap in the face, but I will use this holiday to celebrate that strength, to remind people of that strength, to remind myself. I won't let it, and this is the question I want to ask next, about how do we prevent it from becoming commercialized? This is why we told Walmart, hell no. Stop with the ice cream. Stop with the foolishness. How do we prevent the co-opting? I saw this, Belinda. Thank you for sharing your opinion. Juneteenth is disrespectful and a giant slap in the face to all Black people. Just look at the marketing and advertising associated with this so-called holiday. Why would we celebrate something that was wrong? Her opinion. Thank you for sharing it. How do we stop the co-op? Can we not? Is this is built into our American capitalism that people going to see opportunity, corporate interests are going to see opportunity to make a sale? Is this something that we can be a part of? Kind of, I don't know. I don't think can we control that? Who wants to respond to Belinda, please?
Aren't we already? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Brickslinger. I haven't heard from you. Go ahead, sir.
To answer that question, which is a really, really good question, it goes back to me once again saying how much I do not want this to be a joke, because we are, like I said, this particular holiday is just a year old for it to be a national holiday, and we already seeing people finding a way to make a dollar out of it, make a big sale out of it, make a big anything out of it, instead of making the acknowledgement and the history bigger. So can we do something about it? Yes. We should, if anything, we should do something about it, because when it's all said and done, it's not like Valentine's Day or Columbus Day or any holiday, whether it's major or minor. It's not just something that just be like, oh, we just want a day off of work, or kids no school for the kids and stuff like that. No,
well, I'm gonna take my day off though. I'm gonna take. Y'all
more,
mad? I'm gonna take. Oh no, but I hear you. Don't trivialize. I'm sorry to bring some just.
it's all good.
Yeah, don't trivialize it. What you're saying. It's a real deal to you. I hear you.
Yeah. So what we can do is protect it. You know what I'm saying? Protect it like a jewel. Protect it like, Fort Knox protect them golds and stuff like that. We should be protecting that, the history of it, the history of everything that came after it. Is like,
we definitely got to keep the emphasis on what we want. I hear you. Who else wants that? Ace Butterfly says, do you know you can receive counseling for racism? I did not know that. Check out if your employer's health package covers counseling. This is real, guys. This is real. That experience that we're having, even now, is real. So thank you for sharing that, Ace. Who else wants to add on? Thank you, the Brickslinger.
Well, just a rhetorical question. I'm sorry, Savior, did you want to go, man?
Yeah, only thing I was gonna say is that when it comes to stopping the co-op, which if that's the question,
yes,
say there's two answers. There's a long and a short answer, but I guess let me give the abbreviated answer. It's going to be painful, regardless of how you want to do this, because it's going to require you to stop doing something. So, because everybody else, if they do start the co-op, where they're going to start commercializing it and saying, let's say, it's Juneteenth. Did you get your Juneteenth ice cream today? Did you you're celebrating your Juneteenth cake? Did you get your Juneteenth cake? And if everybody around you starts doing that, they're going to start looking at you and talking to you like you crazy because you didn't want to do it. But the painful part would be, I don't do that for Juneteenth. What we do on Juneteenth, we talk about what Juneteenth actually is.
Get this book, hold this book real quick.
Yeah, I say, in my household, we sit there and we go over the history of what Juneteenth is, and we have a read. We all get together.
We have to make it deep for ourselves.
If you want to come over and we have a barbecue, but then even that starts to get commercialized because they might.
No, and then you get to a corporate setting where they want to have chicken and waffles and then watermelon. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it could be a slippery slope if you're not careful. TTOO adds, Belinda, it's not about celebrating something that's wrong. It's about remembering what Black people went through and not to waste elders' sacrifice. That's, I think, where I'm going with it. Who else wanted to add? Go ahead, Kennard.
Well, just a rhetorical question. What has the Black human experience been for you? Has it been more positive or has it been more negative? And if it's been more positive, then you continue to build on that positivity in every sense of the word. Now, if it's been more negative, then perhaps you need to question, why is that? And go internal with that question, not
and maybe
external.
Get counseling.
There you go.
Yeah. Black people are resilient people. Those that survived the period of enslavement went through a lot. I just keep thinking our DNA being able to walk around in these bodies is a miracle, y'all. Yes, just humanity is a miracle. But I'm talking about our specific ancestors went through. The fact that our DNA is alive within us and we are walking and we are talking and we are as thriving in many cases. is a miracle or more of a testament to that strength and survival, godly, of those who really, really suffered a lot. We still suffer, but I cannot even. I said, thank God. Sometimes when I was little and learning about this, I was like, God, thank you that I was not born back then, because I don't even know what I would be. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when I feel like, okay, things are hard here, I'm like, what if I was born in 1890? What if I was born in oh my gosh, what would I've run? Would I have? Do you know what I'm saying? When I hear about my grandparents, my great grandparents, and things like this, I'm like, God, would I've had that strength
I don't.
to lay it down? I'll be sneaking out food to my folks.
It has a
Let's go. You know what I'm saying? I mean, again, not again to trivialize, but more so my imagination, my historical imagination just goes deep. I just think about it. I'm like, wonder what it would have been like. Would you have hope? Would you have that type of this better day is gonna come for my kid? Would you have, you know what I'm saying? You know how much strength that take to see the destruction, the terrorism, and to still believe y'all ain't gonna keep us like this forever. That is amazing, like vision that I think about sometimes. I'm like, God, would I have had that? Would I have been able to withstand the sexual abuse? I don't know. I just think about that sometimes. Thank God for our forefathers and foremothers, because
Weren't they more unified back then, though? Wasn't that the fabric of their energy back then?
No.
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 Go ahead, Sarge.
No, they didn't have a choice. There were no choice. That was just the way. Okay, I see the bricklayer. You know what I'm talking about. They didn't have a choice.
Right.
There's a book called
Well, my question is, because when I look at the Black human experience today, there's a lot of broken pieces. Before, there seemed to be a push for unity more so, even under these dreadful conditions.
Understand, you're not minimizing the pain,
no,
trauma,
not minimizing it,
craziness of it.
Because I asked myself that question too. If I was back there, what would have been my situation? But then there was an energy there was a strength.
Yeah.
When you look at the silent generation, if we could take a portion of that strength and bring it here, now that's powerful.
Boy, they're saying we got soft. Do we get soft? I'm not saying that. I don't want to experience anything like close to that. But you'll be surprised with that level of it brings out of you. And thank God, like I said, they suffered. They survived the suffering. They survived the trauma. It wasn't a cakewalk. It wasn't anything that it was like, oh my gosh, magical Negro. That's what I'm trying to dispel at the same time. No, because they want to feel like, oh, we didn't feel those flashes. We didn't feel that pain. We were happy. You know, there's people that say that we were happy.
I heard that from a person in Louisiana, but there was I was going to make a point a minute ago.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't went.
Ida B. Wells, because you're talking about an interesting time to grow up in. Ida B. Wells, go back and read some of her writings because she grew up during that time of Reconstruction. So she was born in that time, in that period of Reconstruction, of able to ride in the trains and da-da-da-da-da. And then when they pulled
when the spigot closed, when they shut it off.
And then she got to sit there and see all the lynchings and everything else that went on right afterwards. And for me, when I read some of the writings, because you can read some of those writings of some of those ancestors that came before us, and you can look at, they even have some recordings that you can probably find on YouTube. Actually, you can find a couple of them on YouTube of slaves that they did back in the 1920s, people who grew up in slavery. But to think about, if you grew up in that time, what would my mentality have been? I think it's one thing is that I would have grown up and I wouldn't have known any better on one way or the other. But then if I would have grown up outside of that time, like Ida B. Wells did, and then to have them close that spigot back, would I have been as resilient and as impactful as she was in fighting those anti-lynching laws and everything else that she went after during that time frame? Because when she talked about being on the train and then them trying to put her in in the cart that's, you would think do you want to be in a cart close, furthest away, or no? You want to be in a cart closest to, that's not the car
conductor. Yeah.
The one that's closest to gets all the soot. So they didn't want to be in that one.
Okay.
So and they told her that she had to go in that one. They just showed she had a ticket for another one. And she fought it, kind of like what we hear with Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
But I've been that.
Well, we're getting right into what? Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896.
That's exactly right. It was exactly the time frame. That was just, as a matter of fact, her writing came just before the Plessy v. Ferguson train debacle happened. But she started talking about those things. I'm like, would I have been that forceful if I was knowing the things that she knew afterwards?
Right.
Growing up in it.
They gave her that little taste of freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom. We was like living lives. When I was reading about this, I don't know where, randomly, like jockeys, black jockeys in the 1890s were critically, like they were the people that rode horses in races and stuff. They were ultra middle class, like making money. And then all of a sudden, again, spigot closed. And all of a sudden, all the jockeys became white. And I just think about all those, instances of again, here you go. Nope. You're doing too good. We'll burn down your city. Nope. You're doing this. Nope. You can't live there. Sorry. Nope. Because we want to prove that you're not. Greenwood District. We ain't bother nobody. We gonna burn it down. Because we have this ideal of who you are.
Right.
I can't. It's so deep. It's so deep. And again, we're not going to focus on the commercialization. Hopefully, if we stay true to it, if it remains ours, I say that, but because you can't control corporate interests to a certain extent. They're going to try to make a buck off of it. The flags, this, that. Every holiday, I agree with this. Last Good Man in Jersey is commercialized. That's the theme. This is what we do. He's asking why stop the co-op. Is it a good thing? The machine is going to be the machine, says Miss AK Lady. I know I'm a little bit behind. Go ahead. Who wants to jump in? Raise awareness by any means necessary. Saying, okay, so that's what you mean. So co-op no matter. So now Walmart said Juneteenth. You gotta say Juneteenth. At least what is that Juneteenth? Did you guys see that judge in South Florida who is over the Nicholas Cruz case? The guy who is accused of, or actually he was convicted. He's in the sentencing phase now of shooting up Parkland. And she didn't know what Juneteenth was. One of the jurors during jury selection was like, I can't because of Juneteenth. She was like, what is Juneteenth? It's like a made-up holiday. This is the judge. I know her. And I was like, oh.
You know that judge?
I know.
You know that judge?
I know. Yeah. This is a small world.
Can I ask you a question real quick? What was the deal with her forcing that attorney to go ahead on the death penalty case when she didn't know how to deal with the judge?
She don't want to. Okay, so if one attorney is allowed to drop out and say, I have a conflict of interest, I can't do this, etc. This Nicholas Cruz case has been like, the jury selection has taken months. This case is just so drawn out. I believe the judge was hedging that there was not an appealable argument. I forget what her grounds was, why she said what was her grounds? Like I'm remembering I watched the video of what her argument was why she had to get off this case. And it wasn't an appealable ground. So the judge was like, thank you for that argument. Please have a seat. You're still on the case. Because who's going to defend Nicholas
I think
Cruz?
she was saying she didn't have any experience on jury selection with capital issues involving the death penalty.
It was because the jury expert could not be there. And she didn't
he
want
was out that
like,
day. He was sick.
Yes. And and the judge responded that there is no requirement by law that an expert in jury selection needed to be there for jury selection to take place. So then, and I think the attorney was, it was a little bit of showmanship. Judge, I want to recuse myself because blah, blah, blah. She was like, please have a seat. You're still on.
My kids.
Yes. It was very quick. She didn't even entertain it. Will it be a possible point of appeal? Maybe. If you do get the death penalty, you're going to be appealing for days anyway. But I did see that exchange. I kind of agree with the judge, but who else is going to come in this deep in a case and pick up this case, that would be again grounds for like restart, reselection. The man now, you won't get it adjudicated. It will just keep going on in perpetuity, and it's taken so long. I think this judge is frustrated with how long it's taken, and I just think she was at the point of like, you ain't going nowhere. Sit down. Again, will that be a point of appeal later? Possibly. But I agree with her. There is no right to have an expert on selecting jurors for a capital murder case. That's not a right. Right is to counsel. You are going to be this guy's counsel. Stop playing with me. It was very interesting. But yeah, I remember watching it. I don't know that I think it's a public defender. I've seen her. But that judge's dad is also a judge. It was a big deal. She reached out to the bar associations locally. I guess I won't tell all the business. But the Black Bar Association to write a letter and say she didn't know when she's going to do educational stuff and things. I was like, I'm not a part of that. I'm not signing on. I don't think she's a bad person. People are human. So she really humanly just didn't know what Juneteenth was, right? But is that a scary thing to have a judge not know what Juneteenth is? You get what I'm saying? So it was people were trying to frame it as an educational teaching moment.
It's the second year for the holiday. So
right, but she didn't know it. It was her honest, like, what is this Juneteenth? That's something they made up. Like, and she would have had that conversation privately. I'm glad she had it openly in court so we could see what we know and what we don't know. You understand? Because when people are ignorant, it's scary when you don't know. But I was actually like, I get it. They didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but I was like, I don't know. But yeah, educational opportunity is what people decided on. Yeah. Anyway, Anyway, I can't go any more deeper than that. But yeah, that's why you need to know who's on your bench. But she's a human being. She really didn't know. So it just shows you again. We want people who are broad, multitude of experiences, volunteer with a lot of different things, understand people's walks of life. That's what I want on my bench. Right. So they're saying the same thing. Can you stop Christmas from being commercial?
Not anymore. Definitely not anymore.
They done sold out Jesus. Jesus is Jesus still a part of this? I don't know. The culture in this country is to commercialize. I agree with that, Doug. Absolutely. Juneteenth. Not watermelon A's, please. No, thank you. Let a good sale come. Juneteenth is Juneteenth is commercialized. My experience has been positive. I feel like I stand on the soldier or your Black experience. Okay, Miss AKA Lady shares. My experience has been positive. I feel like I stand on the shoulders of so many empowering Black women and men. I can acknowledge the past and feel generationally accomplished in the present. Yes. Sometimes with folks, I love this feeling of being Black. I love this feeling. Now, when I'm challenged, there is a challenging side to being Black too, where I be like, oh, y'all don't think I know what I'm doing. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. I'm gonna play dumb. Okay, you finna get that fire though. But but people who are gonna be who they are. People are ignorant. Sometimes people just don't know. They've never met a Black attorney. They've never met a Black woman in their corporate job. They never, whatever. It's hard. It's hard too. So it's okay to acknowledge both for sure.
The ironic part for me is that most of the time, whenever I get the negative experience professionally for being Black or people not listening to me because I'm Black, it comes from my own people. Normally, when I'm in a room and I'm the only spot in the room, as I like to call it, it's kind of like that the old E.H. Hutton commercials. They listen, right? Yeah, when I speak, they listen, and the ones that normally don't are us. It's kind of like
really?
Yeah.
That's not my experience. Are y'all get that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
From your own?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not all the time.
We're not immune to racism. We're not immune to it. It affects everybody. It affects us as well.
Absolutely.
When I walk into a room and there's a bunch of professionals, white men and Black and white women or whatever, no issues. My brothers and sisters, those are the ones that normally challenge me the most on my professional expertise or whatnot. But it's always interesting to me. I say, because it's like,
no, but as Sergeant said, is it ingrained in us to not think that person is capable?
That's where I think so I always have a lot more patience because a lot of times we get that thought process of other people know more than we do. And I remember listening to TLA one time. He made the comment that where he went to one of our brothers to go get some business done and paid him going rate because he has the expertise. And sometimes it's like we look at each other as if we don't. I'm like, I love that mindset when you can overcome that and you get there. And someone sometimes
it's deep. This thing runs deep into our core to
Yeah.
all folks.
Yeah.
Why it is deep. We don't like to think of ourselves as seeing even ourselves as less than as a result of our experiences and generationally and at present, and conditioning that we experience daily. But it's deep. To unwind this is deep.
it is.
It's very deep.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
You
walk
know,
into a
the
room.
Tuskegee experiment took place at Tuskegee University, right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's it.
That was a great.
He's like, what else? No, that's it. He's like, that's it. There's no.
Well, I'm definitely, like I say, I'm here. My throat getting a little sore, so I will always, kind of let my body tell me when it's time to go to bed. But the conversation tonight has been excellent, fellas. I have really enjoyed. I'm going to ask for final comments. I'm going to ask folks that want to come up. This is the last call. Shout out to all of my sponsors of tonight's stream. Y'all are amazing. Thank you very much to everyone who is enjoying this, and hopefully. Many more than the SuzetteSpeaks speakers. Maybe with the Juneteenth, other people will find it as well. Savior Black been doing work. Kenardoc doing work. The Brick Slinger been doing work. Sergeant Claiborne been doing work and understanding who we are in relationship to this holiday, in relationship to our past. There's a lot more than the ride into Texas in this holiday. That's how I feel. People want to make it about that, but I'm not going to allow it, for me personal, to be the ride into Texas. It's important as a bigger symbol of a Black American experience that is complex and multi-layered and ongoing. So they're not going to just have me think about it as the ride into Texas. But final thoughts. No, I'm just trying to think, like, how will I celebrate this? How will I? I was going to go do a bunch of stuff. It rained today. I was like, okay, I'm not going to go. And then yesterday it was busy. I didn't have a chance to go Father's Day. I did Father's Day yesterday. I didn't do Juneteenth yesterday. I did Father's Day with my brother and my dad. And then what I was supposed to do? I had a whole list. I had the most Juneteenth list ever. And then I was like, dang, I ain't even do nothing. Punch the air. So, I mean, I had Juneteenth in my heart, though. Did I buy anything Juneteenth? I educated a few people on Friday and Saturday. That's going to be my Juneteenth-ness, right? Okay. Celebrated, educating people.
Good. Has it educating and sitting down and enjoying time with, for instance, it's a federal holiday at this point, so you're going to get time off regardless. I mean, spend time with family and friends.
Yeah, but they got to make it state. A lot of states fight it. Like, it's not a state holiday for a lot of people, too.
That's true. When I say,
all right. So where do we go from here? How will Juneteenth be celebrated in the future? Your final thoughts, guys. I've enjoyed. Who else? Who wants to go? No, panel's closed. Stop it. It's almost 10:30. Okay. Who wants to go first on their closing remarks tonight? A Juneteenth / everything Black conversation with where we gonna go, how we gonna make sure it stays what it's supposed to mean, or how you want to or not want to celebrate in the future. Any way you want to take your final thoughts. Y'all have enjoyed. Who wants to go first? Go ahead, the Brick Slinger. Final thoughts. Anything you want to say before you head out?
Sure. My final thought will be, if anything, like I said before, we definitely need to protect it. Now, how we celebrate it is how we've been celebrated before it became a national holiday. Continue to tell the story. Continue to remind folks what happened. And just like this conversation as a prime example of getting in more details of the history that is given to us. Because, like I said before in a previous conversation we had, we need to know more than just Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks on Black History Month.
Jesus.
Do more. We need to learn more. So if anything, Juneteenth needs to continue to be what it's always been to us, before it became an official holiday.
Yeah, don't let people. First of all, I agree with you in terms of us doing our own educating. Right, we're not going to be able to rely on anybody for the Juneteenth full experience. Not outside
Exactly.
of ourselves, not in our own households. We definitely have to take kind of ownership of it, and whether it's in the workplace. 'Cause I was thinking, like, what would I have done if I was like in a corporate job? Like, would I have said, let's do something, or I don't know, volunteer? I don't know, like what would be appropriate. It's not, I don't know, they're trying to make Martin Luther King Day like a day of service. It started with Barack Obama, but I don't, or even before that. I think maybe President Bush. Am I wrong? I could be wrong, but I was thinking about like what would be the activity that would be like, yes, that's a Juneteenth activity. I'm not gonna put you on the spot, the brick slinger, but all your points well taken. Definitely make this our holiday. Don't let it get lost in the sauce of what will be inevitable commercialization. So appreciate you. Thanks for spending time tonight. Have a great one. And you're welcome up anytime. I'll see you soon, the brick slinger. Headed out. Thank you again, sir, for your thoughts and contributions tonight. Very nice. Very, very nice. Adding to the show. Who wants to go next? Who wants to give their final thoughts? Go ahead, Kanarda. And then Slavery Black, you the last one, bro.
Okay, save the best for last, man. Thank you guys for having me up. Suzette, thank you all. I challenge you with the ultimate question. How do you see yourself going forward? The way that I see you is light. You are light. You are the light of the sun. And what does light do? It attracts the sun, the plants. They sort of gravitate toward the light. And if you see yourself as that's a powerful place to be. Love this. Oh, yeah. Love this. This is great. Melanin. Ah, yeah. But you are far more than that. You are more than you think you are. And that's what I'll go out on that.
Yo, shout out to you, brother Kennard. I always want to get us deeper. And I'm like, we trying to close, bro. But I love it. You are more than there. You are more than when anyone says you are. Man, if we can embrace that, internalize that, act accordingly, it would be a different experience. Absolutely. Kennard, thank you. I see you doing your stuff. He got all these shows lined up. I'm like, I wish I could tune in more, but go drop your channel link, please, in the chat so folks can find you. And I always appreciate your perspective. Very wise. I appreciate you. All right. I'll see you soon. Have a great night out there in Cali. Bye. See you soon. Bye now. All right, Sarge, you're next. What are your final thoughts on the Juneteenth holiday?
Well, there's a good quote by Malcolm X. I'm going to try not to mess it up. He said that they taught you that your grandmothers and your ancestors were nothing but cotton pickers, but your grandfather was Toussaint Louverture Hale. Your grandfather was Nat Turner, and your grandmother rocked the cradle of human civilization.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. You want to leave us with some depth, baby. Will that be a part of the American History Facts? I don't know. We'll figure that out. Thank you.
I'm not in the classroom anymore, but if they let me back in, I'm gonna I'll teach it.
Oh, scientifically, the whole human race was born in Africa of Black women. Whoa. Can we teach that, or is that offensive? I don't know. But I appreciate you saying it.
It's a fact.
That's what I'm saying. I thought we were doing fact-based. But anyway, Sergeant Claiborne, your comments fire. Your oral contributions here fire as well. Thank you so much for all that history you've given us. And we might have to do a show. Are you on Instagram?
No, Suzette, I'm not on Instagram.
How can I reach you? Can you leave your email in the back chat, please?
Sure.
All right. Very knowledgeable. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Enjoyed having you on, and I hope to see you soon. Don't leave without please putting your email back there. Thank you, and have a good one. Awesome. And then there were two. I love it. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for accepting my invitation so last minute. As in yesterday, I was like, what am I talking about Monday? I was like, oh, Save Your Black, let's go. And he was so kind to oblige me and share with us his time and knowledge and expertise tonight when it comes to conversations as it relates to the Black experience in African American history and just what it means to our current condition and relates to how we are now. So I appreciate you. Final thoughts from Savior Black. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Only thing I would say is this: we're talking about Juneteenth, the holiday, or we touched on it. We touched a lot about Black history in general. I just want to encourage everybody just to continue learning. A lot of times when we're younger, we have this authoritarian society where we tell you don't ask why. Continue to ask why. Continue to ask the questions. Continue to look don't just accept the answers you get. Dig deeper. Look at things like the BOP website, or look at as you hear these things, don't just accept the surface answer. Look deeper. And
y'all on the woke police, red pill, I don't know what to call y'all, but yes, there's always a deeper. Sunbreeze say don't stop finding your identity, keep your purpose so you too can live your life in peace. I think that's the core message. Absolutely. Yes, Sergeant Ernest Claiborne got a lot to say. He did drop the email. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll reach out to you. But yay, glad you enjoyed Sunbreeze, the sponsor of the stream. Thank you, said you enjoyed it. I hope all of you have enjoyed it. We did not anticipate where this would go. So I have definitely just enjoyed the impromptu experience of, the conversation right along with you guys, and how conversations are supposed to get deep. Twists and turns is a part of the blueprint. Thank you, RM, for throwing up tomorrow. Ike O comes through. Ike Ojiamian is going to be my guest. 4 tips for dealing with stress. Y'all got stress in your life? Deal with stress. We're going to talk about a little bit of self-mastery tomorrow. And then on Saturday, I will have Mandrill and Shushu talking about the recession. Or is your life recession proof? We're going to talk about it. And again, Thursday, I won't be on here. I will be moderating a political debate, and I'm excited. It's my first one of the season. I will be moderating 4, so it's going to throw my schedule off a little bit. It'll be like a couple Thursdays and a Tuesday and maybe another Thursday. So I'll let you know, and I'll probably just drop the flyer on the community tab if y'all want to. It's like a Zoom thing. So, but again, it's candidates from Miami and Fort Lauderdale in that area. So it's more local elections. So I don't know if you guys will want it, but I'll still put it up on here on YouTube just in case, you're into politics anyway. But yes, Ebony says, bring back Sarge. Yes, Sarge got a lot to say. Really appreciate the support. Y'all, please go over and support Savior Black's channel. Like I said, you still do early morning, 7 a.m.? What time you come on?
I'm getting ready to start doing early morning. And as I've been tweaking how the platform that I'm working on. So it's going to be early morning. There'll be an early morning show, and then there's going to be an afternoon show. And I'm going to start.
Okay, so whether you don't catch him right at the early morning, but listen during your lunch or listen, throughout the day.
Driving.
Like is free, sub is free. And like I said, he has so much knowledge when it comes to, he was dropping books named Slavery by Another Name. Thank you. RM is on Amazon looking up the stuff. Thank you. She's incredible. Sunbreeze, you too. You guys are just amazing. The support I get. Sometimes I feel like, wow, this is amazing. This ride over here. What a night, Savior Black. I'm going to have to come with the super chats just making my heart jump.
The palpitations.
I'm just like, and good convo. Like, oh my gosh, we had everything this evening. Could not have imagined it going this well with this much support. But like RM says, thank you so much for watching. Y'all are amazing. Thanks for being so supportive, generous. And big shout out to everybody who contributed via Super Chat tonight. My Cash App as well. You guys are amazing. What they talking about? Savior Black, have you been hitting the gym or something? What's up with that?
What? Nah.
Somebody else commented on he looking good tonight. I was like, what y'all doing? We're trying to have a conversation.
Nah.
And they talk about whatever you do, keep it. Hey, you're so funny. Whatever you do, keep doing it. Y'all looking up the men like, dang. But I did have a wonderfully distinguished panel of gentlemen helping me out, sharing their thoughts, and I love that. So again, thank you to Savior Black. Thank you, everybody who was enjoying Open Mic Mondays. Like I said, I think I'm going to throw out a question. I try to do current events. Not everybody's up on current events all the time. So I may throw out a question or two or just a subject matter and then just open it up. Again, thanks, y'all. Thanks. Like, again, from the bottom of my heart, with so much gratitude. Thank you guys for all the generosity tonight. Woo! Hit the like button before you leave. For Team Replay, thank you. Hit the like button. And I will see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Ike O joins us. 4 tips for dealing with stress relief. All right. Savvy Black, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your generous contribution of your time and your knowledge. All right. We out. I got to go to bed. Y'all playing. I got to go.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye now.
Bye-bye.